And now to begin my list of 100 people who've been killed in cinema by xenomorphs, predators, and Terminator. And we are back with Dark Side of the Moon. And this week, unfortunately for both of us, we watched the amazing Spider-Man 2. It's a little act of masochism and sadism all wrapped up in a tiny little package.
Got to finish what we started.
Exactly. We have to finish what we started. That was the brave note we gave each other before we watched it. With me, as always, is my co-host, Vincent Green, and we are going to get into it. Vincent, on second viewing, you know what? It didn't hurt me as much on second viewing. Definitely.
Should we just say, Mark Webb came back to return, and I just wanted to touch on that, Alex Kurtzman.
Oh yeah, you give us the rundown, the who's who, and we can move forward.
So pretty much, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Mark Webb returned as the director. This time we've seen Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orci took on the writing roles. They long-time collaborators with J.J. Abrams, if I'm not mistaken. So we were expecting kind of a high concept kind of story. Andrew Garfield returned as Peter Parker, Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy. This time we've seen the introduction of Jamie Foxx as Electro, Max Dillon, and Dane DeHaan as Green Goblin. And actually, I wanted to point out that Felicity Jones is in this too, Jane Erso from Rogue One, and Paul Giamatti made an appearance as the Rhino. But I'm like I wasn't too overly hurt by this movie this time around because my expectations are way down, and one thing we talk about a lot on here is how expectations can completely change your mindset and how you view a movie and how you enjoy a movie. And I think this is a fine example of it. Low expectations equals more enjoyment, but still the same problems occurred, of course.
And it works both ways. I know, I don't want to get off topic, but I think it works both ways. Also, I was very late to Breaking Bad party. Breaking Bad was a phenomenal show. Couldn't possibly lived up to the absolute life-changing, existential, dare I say, religious experience that people were having with the show. And we watched it and go, this is really, really cool. But honestly, it was exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
But when you go into a show, this one, I went in and this didn't hurt me like Spider-Man 3 did. Yeah. But very few things ever did. The last season of Game of Thrones has the gold medal.
Oh, fuck you, DB Weiss and David Benioff. That's all I'm going to say. Just fuck the both of you.
Suck my fucking balls, man.
Yeah, it's you ruined that for everyone.
You know what? If they didn't make that season, I would just be broken. But I've been broken for a long time, so that was fine. But that season took something.
It was I had a really good relationship with these people, and they screwed me over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was just like you came home and found them in bed with bad writing. But anyway, back on topic. But I watched this a second time. I was expecting to hate it. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't hate it, but the tone of this film was. You know what? In my head, oddly enough, I just literally pictured a yo-yo, a visual metaphor. It was just really sad, somber kind of what's going to happen between me and Gwen. And then there's I'm Spider-Man, I'm quipping, and I'm grabbing plutonium, like it's something not to be feared. Like, oh no, ooh, look at me, I'm having a blast. I'm Spider-Man. And then it tried to shift back and forward so much that I just felt. I think it shakes you loose from the story. It literally does, up, down, up, down, up, down, and you fall out of the Ferris wheel at some point.
What did you make of the alterations of Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn? What do you make of those kind of alterations, his relationship with Peter, all that kind of stuff? In comparison to obviously the Tobey Maguire movie.
I absolutely hated the original Harry Osborn. So I hate
James Franco,
and it's not. I don't know.
His character, not even James Franco's portrayal.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even his fault.
I think that's probably what Sam Raimi wanted. That's what he got, and that's fine. That was his artistic direction, and I'm just some dude out there in the ether.
Yeah, and he was wrong. Sam Raimi was wrong.
And I kind of like the. I don't know. I thought he was played better. Again, cheesy, and I didn't like him or anything like that. But there was moments. I remember when his father dies, and it turns out there was the Osborn curse. Yes, they're phenomenally wealthy and phenomenally influential and powerful, but it doesn't matter. Their genetics are against them. which I thought was quite cool. Like, I thought it was a cool storytelling narrative. And I thought it was a really cool scene where he was sitting there and one of the lawyers is like, Harry, and he goes, Mr. Osborn, we're not friends.
Yeah.
And I thought he was setting himself up better. I thought he was having fun with the character. He reminded me a little bit of who's Lex Luthor now?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg, yeah. He reminded me a bit about Eisenberg, as in the energy is more modern day, Silicon Valley,
kind of
Kickstarter kind of CEO energy than what you expect from the old foreboding heavy William Dafoe energy. Even though William Dafoe would have been the better character, but I'm just saying.
In terms of villains, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I know they were trying to build up to the Sinister Six, but I think they could have just introduced Harry, introduced his motives, made him a bit twisted. But the last half hour was such a shit show.
Yeah.
That it just, I don't know, it just felt unnecessary. Like, why stop there? No, why not have had Vulture show up after Gwen dies, after he defeats after he defeats the Goblin?
For the trilogy.
Like, why stop there? Like, why not have Venom show up after that? Like, why two? Why? Just have a bad guy, man.
Yeah.
Just have a bad guy. And if you like, an Endgame earned its final scene.
Yeah.
Earned it to over 20 films.
Yeah, you have to earn it.
You have to earn it. Looking at you, Liverpool.
Yeah. All of you sons of bitches.
Yeah. Sorry, we're talking about the European Super League. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. It could be a whole podcast.
I dare say it's an entirely different conversation.
Yeah. What did you make of Dane DeHaan's fringe? The longest fringe in the history of fringes.
Well, yeah, no, like, I mean, yeah, that's
an unnecessarily long fringe. Like,
yeah. Well, he couldn't afford to get a haircut. Was the whole narrative there.
That just annoyed me the whole way through. I was just like, that fucking fringe is in his eyes constantly. Like,
I love the fact that he's introduced as Peter's old bestest buddy, old pal,
yeah.
old chum.
Yeah. Oh man, I swear to God, you're just like, Harry, my best pal, Harry. Like, where the fuck was this dude in part one? You know what I mean? Like your best pal that you didn't think to mention once throughout the first movie. Like, not even once. Like, your girlfriend is working in his father's company, and he didn't be like, have you seen Harry around here?
They say the word Oscorp about 25 times in the first film.
In the climax, it's like, where is he? He's in Oscorp. Where are we going? We're going to Oscorp.
No, my buddy, old pal, old chum. I thought, like, see, there was parts of this film where I have to admit I was kind of enjoying it.
Yeah.
I actually think the way the Garfield, and again, we're just like for expediency, I'd probably sometimes just going to say Holland and Maguire.
Yeah.
Just because we're in our third iteration of modern days.
You can't call him Andrew because it sounds weird.
I think the thing with Andrew. Yeah, no. But Garfield, I like the way he moved, like literally physically moved.
Yeah.
I know it was all special effects. I know, in fact, to be honest with you, like that opening scene, he probably doesn't actually have to show up until like day 5. You know what I mean? Like as a guy in the actual Spider-Man suit.
But you're right though, his Spider-Man, even if it's not him, moved very well.
Yeah, and I kind of really, really enjoyed that. I found myself enjoying it. Again, he shows up and goes, "Mr. Bad Guy," and I was kind of going, "Yeah, that's Spider-Man of the comics." That's Spider-Man of the comics, and I kind of like, and I loved, this is probably one of the fondest things I could say, and it's a silly thing. I love the way he used his webbing. I love the way that he used it for like kind of silly things, but it was such an extension of him. Yeah. It was like when somebody can play an instrument really well. Yeah. It's like he's really learned how to use it. Whether it was like hiding something at the last second from Aunt May, or getting a machine gun to point upwards instead of at him and kill him.
Yeah,
and everything in between. He kind of just started using it as if it was an extension of himself.
Yeah, it's
kind of. I thought that was cool. I haven't seen it done. I haven't even seen it done with Holland. They went overboard with Holland and they gave him like an Iron Man build suit.
It's the Iron Spider.
The Iron Spider, and he could do, absolutely kind of bonkers, like, web bombs and all this kind of thing.
Yeah,
but I just thought with Garfield it was cool. I thought that was the best I've seen it done.
Yeah, I think
in that film.
What you mean, the best that the weapon was used, or
the best?
I
think that film. I'd give it to that film, and I'm going to shit on it. I'm like, don't get me wrong, I am going to take a dump on this film.
Yeah.
But I will give credit in the little kind
You have
of
to be even-handed at the same time.
You have to be, exactly. See, if we just in like hypothetically, that's what I said.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, but faster.
I like that. That's a T-shirt.
That's a T-shirt.
Yeah, come to Dark Side of the Moon where we get hypothetical.
But oh god, like, you know what? I'm laughing, so I lost my train of thought. Well, yeah, sorry, no. Hypothetically, if we had this podcast 7 years ago, we came out with this, and instead of going to the pub or back to one of the lads' house for a drink or something, we sat down and had this conversation. Oh, I would have been effing and blinding.
Yeah.
I just would, I was pissed off. So now, like, years have gone by, I have no investment. I only watched it today because I needed to brush up on it. There was no risk, no reward. But I was able to kind of like just view it and think, like, I get what you were going for.
Yeah.
I get it. And sometimes I even seen it, and sometimes I even enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But dude, you lost the tone.
Yeah. I just think
you lost the tone.
I think the thing is, like, it kind of harkens back to something you mentioned on one of the earlier podcasts, was that weak villains really do like fucking mess with like the strength of a superhero movie. And this was another movie where Max Dillon was undercooked. His portrayal, Jamie Foxx's portrayal of Electro, was kind of undercooked. It was just like he was just like, I want attention. That's what his whole motive was. I just wanted attention. I want to be seen. Like, you know what I mean?
The worst scene. The way absolutely agree with your point. And I know we're going to be a little bit all over with this film, but like the people listening, you've seen it.
Yeah.
You know what we're talking about. But the scene where Osborn is going to try and get him out of the special project unit, whatever it was called,
Ravenscroft or something like that. Isn't it?
And again, this guy is able to control the electromagnetic spectrum. Basically, God, he can do things that Magneto can't do, and Magneto is one of the most powerful mutants in all of X-Mutantdom.
Yeah, mutant.
And he kind of says, blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to convince him, like, I can give you revenge, I can give you power, I can give you money, I can give you... And then he kind of says, I need you. And he goes, you need me? You kind of go, oh, God.
Yeah, he's kind of like, what if Cable Guy had become a supervillain?
Yeah, that's kind of it. And you know what? Like, I push back exactly 6% on a conversation we had the other night, and that was like they got Jamie Foxx to play like this completely like charismaticless character, and like Jamie Foxx, I mean, I'd say if you just literally watch Jamie Foxx at a restaurant go up and say, sorry, there's no salt on my table, and they go, oh, God, sorry sir, we'll get it down straight away, and you go, oh no, that's not a problem, thank you. It would probably be the most charismatic thing you've ever fucking seen.
Yeah, like,
Jamie Foxx just oozes charisma.
He's like one of the most natural born entertainers of all time.
He just is.
He can sing, he can dance, he can act, like he can do action, he can do comedy.
But you know what? He can do all that. But I've seen guys who can do all that. But
not to the level he can. You know what I mean?
No, not to the level. No, he's huge. Like he's hugely hard. Yeah. But I'm just saying, I could point to somebody who could. Like, I mean, no one could dance like Michael Jackson, and nobody could sing like Beyonce or something like that. But he's just strong in everything.
Yeah.
And maybe there's somebody can dance better, or somebody can sing better, or somebody can all that.
He's like
such a strong all rounder.
Yeah, like an old school entertainer, like back in the day where they were funny, they could sing, they would dance. You know what I mean? Like,
and you like him. There's just something about him where I'm rooting for him.
Like a Fred Astaire.
As a human being,
you know what I mean?
I'm rooting for him, and he's got like a mansion.
Yeah. Have you ever heard some of this shit? Like he does, like he brings in struggling artists, lets them stay there, lets them record.
I know he saved the dude's life. Some dude crashed outside his house.
He pretty much.
It was him that came out and pulled him from the wreckage.
He pretty much like not like invented Ed Sheeran, but Ed Sheeran stayed there for 6 weeks. He got him a lot of exposure on his career in America and stuff. So he's.
Well, I'm a musician. I'm sure if I stayed in bloody Jamie Foxx's house for a few days, it wouldn't hurt me.
Yeah, like he said this funny joke one time, I think it was on Graham Norton, where he's like, I only put the home studio in my house so I could get on all these famous artists' records. You know what I mean? Because he's like, hey, you want to come in and do a track? You know what I mean? Yeah. Fucking genius.
Claims to fame, you know what I mean?
And the only reason his name is Jamie Foxx is because when he used to be like a stand-up comedian, he changed his name to Jamie Foxx because it sounded like a hot chick. And he knew he'd get up on stage earlier in the night and shit because of it. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised he didn't say, like, when he used to be like a comedian slash shark trainer slash professional love maker. Yeah, But he's just, But at the same time, again, me and you said like to pick the worst character. Just pick somebody who. But at the same time, I think somebody who doesn't have natural charisma, to finish my sentence.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I guess like Jamie Foxx would look at that and go, yeah, you know what? I'm Jamie fucking Foxx. I could do it all.
Yeah, like
I'll play this. I'll play the shit out of this because he gave himself kind of a comb over.
Yeah.
And his body language was obviously, there was no assertiveness to it. There was this. He was very awkward in the body, and he did it really really well. But he's a waste, man.
What I liked about what Marvel have decided to do with this Spider-Verse, live action Spider-Verse rumors are true, that they've kind of like, we're not going to replace Jamie Foxx, we're not going to replace Alfred Molina, we're not going to try to do better than those actors because you can't. We're going to try to do better with those actors because you can. You know what I mean? Like, whereas...
No, that's fair. No, that's a really good point. Like, it'd be like, exactly, it's like if they, they carry on Iron Man or something like that. But the fact of the matter is you just have to switch the angle and do your best with that. Don't try and replicate something that you can never surpass.
Yeah, just do like what they're doing with the plan Ironheart. Go a totally different way about it. Like, you know what I mean? Have a young woman who's obviously a genius.
His daughter. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I think it's in the comic books. I think she's a young woman of color. I think
in the comic book she is a young woman of color. Yeah. I know that, but I was just wondering if you know what I mean. Like he had a kid. I don't know, man. We won't get into it. I just thought maybe genius. Genius.
I say the kid will be. You're talking probably phase 6 or 7 now in Marvel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True, yeah.
She'll replace Ironheart as Ironheart.
Yeah,
or some shit like that. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like
when she dies,
because of Marvel, the fucking 4D chess playing motherfuckers over there.
yeah. Oh, they are. But this is the thing. This film, like, I mean, you know what I'm going to do? Like, because I did pay some. I'm going to tell you 2 or 3, maybe even 4 things, dare I say, that I got right, and then let's get into it.
Yeah.
What I just think I got wrong. Sally Fields. I was watching this, and because me and you did Maguire's Spider-Man not a million moons ago, and the Aunt May was a strong, absolutely a strong woman, a grounded woman, a loving woman, but her character wasn't like a kick-ass character in and of herself. She was this kind of like frail woman who needed protection and saving. Sally Fields was taking on 22-year-olds in a nursing school to get extra money to put Peter through college. She was a mother.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go. She's a motherfucker.
No, but she was a mother, and she even says at one point, "No, you're my boy.
Yeah,
you're my boy." And she goes, "But I just thought like you didn't need her to be like not everybody in a superhero film needs to be a superhero, and I'm not even trying to play not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah.
I just like characters to be fucking strong. She was strong, and she played this kind of like she had lost her husband, and money was tight, and she's just wants to do right by her son." And forget this and shit. That's just that's just how the government views their relationship. She was his mother.
Yeah.
And I thought she just got to play herself. The worried aunt. I just thought Sally Fields got to be an actress, and she's a great actress, and I give them credit for that.
Yeah, no, Aunt May definitely in the Amazing Spider-Man. Like, something we called for was that Uncle Ben and Aunt May needed a more pivotal role in his, in his progression of his character through being Peter Parker, taking on Spider-Man, reaching the next level of his potential, whatever. That Uncle Ben is all about setting up the groundwork for Peter Parker to be able to become the Spider-Man we know.
Power and responsibility, yeah.
Yeah, but Aunt May is the reason he stays and becomes a better Spider-Man because she lives the life by the same ethos that Ben does. So she's able to kind of like ground him still constantly.
But she's even like she's also trying to be like Aunt May and everything that brings. But she tries to invoke Uncle Ben.
Yeah,
and she does it well. You know what I mean? In a film that's tone was completely all over the place. She struck me as a woman who was in her golden years who should have had them with her husband.
Yeah,
like she as an actress just absolutely nailed that. In fact, I'm going to go out and say the best Aunt May is Sally Fields. There, controversial. I don't know.
I know.
I just love.
Marissa Tomei is so fucking likable, though.
So she's likable. She's likable. But I'm talking like there's a pain to Sally Fields' character that I love. That I loved as a storytelling device.
I suppose Marvel Spider-Mans tend to lean more on the comedic side, don't they?
Exactly, they do a little bit on the vibrant, kind of colourful character side. And Sally Fields just seemed like a really, really grounded woman in a film that wasn't grounded at all.
Yeah.
So I give them that. I actually thought the way the webbing was used was a really cool scene where he fights Electro first, where he jumps back and it goes slow motion. I know it's very corny, I do. But he saves a lot of people from touching the railing because obviously that's how electricity travels. Science, y'all. But I thought that was just a cool scene where he presses this different button and it literally just shoots an actual web of like instead of shooting a line, it shoots a web. And I thought that was a really, really cool scene. I thought they used webbing well. I thought it was kind of funny. And I thought when I was watching it, I didn't always love how Holland's Spider-Man was almost an Iron Man.
Yeah.
I didn't love that it was so high concept technical that he wasn't just a Spider, because I like Spider-Man, like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man kind of vibe. So I give it credit for that. It's just I can't call it a good film. It's because it's not, because it fucked up. It did what Superman Returns did, and it didn't give them a bad guy with a power set they can work with.
Yeah, because like when something's like Hydro Man or Sandman that we touched up on in Spider-Man 2 with great detail, but like when you have Electro or something like that, there is a disconnect because it's not a fist fight, it's a power fight, where it's like I'm going to shoot you with my powers and you have to try to figure a way around my power set to attack me in a physical way or to suppress my powers.
Don't forget how good Lizard was. We were talking about this just a couple of days ago.
You can have a fist fight with Lizard.
You can have a fist fight with him. You can even, yes, you're faster, I'm stronger. Yes, you can stick the walls while I have to physically use my muscle to climb. But you can hurt me, but I'll heal straight away.
Yeah.
Bar cutting off my head, you can't do anything to me. Like at one point he takes 90 bullets and it puts him down for 15 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Excellent power set for Spider-Man. Agile, fast, all of that.
Yeah.
This one, it didn't do it. And for me, something like that seems, don't get me wrong, I'm no filmmaker and I know it's very easy for us to be armchair directors, but that just seems obvious to me. Just what was wrong with Superman Returns was that Lex Luthor was done a good job by Kevin Spacey. I think he's still doing really well and everyone loves him. But I think Superman needs to punch something if he's the strongest creature on the planet. He needs to punch something.
You need the showdown. You need the good old-fashioned Donnybrook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Every superhero movie.
Why Wolverine is so loved, because you can literally can throw in a 20-minute scene where he's getting the absolute shit kicked out of him while kicking the shit out of multiple or one very strong opponent.
That's why Sabretooth was always such a good villain for Wolverine.
Exactly. It's absolutely excellent.
It's like something we called back on ages ago, and we were like, it comes like to UFC or boxing. Styles make fights. You know what I mean? Styles make fights, you know what I mean? Usually the best opponent for a superhero is the villain that's the antithesis of his power set. It's just the reverse, or just a slightly warped version of it, or something like Superman, Bizarro, or Doomsday is like Superman.
I've never found and I've watched the DC animated universe. I've read between 7.5 and 8 trillion. I lost count somewhere there. Comics. But I didn't find a Superman Doomsday fight any more interesting than a Batman Bane fight. I don't care about the scope.
Yeah.
I don't. I simply don't. I only care about how well it works and how much danger is involved.
Yeah, and what's the stakes?
And does it work? And in this one, Electro, it kind of work in one way. It's high concept, as in Electro can do so many things, and Spider-Man had to use everything from magnetism to rubber-lined suits to changing his webbing, and there was a little bit of thought in it.
Yeah.
But no, just give him something that can kick the shit out. I want that to be as low concept as possible, even in a high concept film.
Yeah.
I just want an action scene, man. This one of my favorite fights is Lady Deathstrike and Wolverine in X-Men 2. It's just a great power set. They were both so similar. And the film wasn't even about them.
That was in Stryker's compound, is it?
It was in Stryker's compound, and it was just excellent.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the lake. I know there's the name of the lake there somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's just disgusting that you can't remember, but I'm not going to tell you. You deserve to be punished. But, that's all. Honestly, I think I've already, to go back to my original point, I think I've already run out of things that I really liked about it.
Yeah.
I think Sally Fields, I think the rom-com thing of it, actually, not even rom-com,
Yeah.
Romance. I get it. You want to be with her, and her dad's ghost haunts you. Do or don't do. Just fuck off. Jesus fucking Christ.
So, right, I want to talk to you about when you look at the Spider-Man movies, and something we talk about a lot is how deep his rogues gallery is. And now that we're 5 movies into the Spider-Man, the Spider-Man back catalogue, for lack of a better term, and we've seen William Dafoe as Green Goblin. We've seen James Franco as New Goblin or Hobgoblin, whatever you want to call him. We've seen Alfred Molina as Doctor Octopus, Otto Octavius. We've seen Topher Grace play Venom, Eddie Brock. We've seen, I think it's Thomas Hayden Christensen. No, Thomas Hayden. I know. I'll check his name. The guy from
Darth Vader.
No, not the guy that played the guy from Sideways from Paul Giamatti. He played Sandman. But we've seen. Sorry, I think that's all. And we've seen from Amazing Spider-Man 1. We saw, who's the villain? Rhys Ifans played the Lizard, Dr. Kirk Connors. And now we've seen Jamie Foxx as Electro, Dane DeHaan as Green Goblin. We see Paul Giamatti as Rhinoceros. And I just want to say to you, or Rhinos, I don't know what to call him, Rhinoceros. But I want to say to you, when you look over the 5 movies, and we always talk about the strength of the villain being so pivotal to a superhero movie, who do you think of that lineup portrayed the villain the best? Who do you think is the most memorable? And who do you think was used most poorly in terms of his potential, in terms of how they could have portrayed the character?
Are you talking about the 5 films that leads us to
the 5 films that we've watched, all that rogues gallery that was put on the screen? Who do you think portrayed their villain the best, and who do you think was the most wasted potential?
Okay, that's fair. I think who portrayed their villain the best would have to be Doc Ock. No question about that.
Alfred Molina
is Doc Ock. He was.
I will not die a monster.
I will not die a monster. And he had the intelligence down. He was locked in. I thought he was. I don't know. I just bought him basically. He's. It's
the reason he's coming back.
His intentions were clear. Yeah, absolutely. His intentions were very clear. You knew what he was about, and his power set was excellent for fighting Spider-Man. I think the absolute worst has to be Topher Grace left 70 Show play Venom as himself from 70 Show, and and the thing that I can't forgive him for. Don't get me wrong, that was probably the direction he was given. Again, you have to understand the directors are the ones who says yes.
Because he's supposed to be
good. Cut.
It was supposed to be the opposite of Tobey Maguire, and that's how Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker was portrayed as this
exactly
weird
kind of good. Yeah, exactly. But he goes. There's a scene where he's got a cab stuck up in the air with webbing, and Mary Jane's in it because it's her weekly kidnapping, and he says he grabs her by the thing and by webbing and pulls her up, and he goes, "My spider sense is tingling. If you." know what I mean, pointing at Mary Jane, basically going I've kidnapped her, and now as a female of our species, I'm aroused sexually.
Yeah, he'd be the kind of guy that'd make the symbiote turn into a giant penis or something, wouldn't he?
Exactly. And I just thought, oh my god, there's nothing worse. And I actually think it derailed his career. And I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
He's made a comeback. He was in the White Klansman and stuff like that, and did a really great job. David Duke, he played David Duke, but no, he has to be the worst.
No, I mean,
so, and they're both in the Maguire universe, the best and the worst.
No, I mean, when I say worst, I know you mean Alfred Molina's the best and Topher Grace was the worst.
Wasted potential.
Yeah, which one do you think is the wasted potential of all the villains? When you look back,
it has to be Fox, doesn't it? Just because of what he brings.
Yeah, I think I'm totally agreeing with you. What you say, Molina's the best, Topher Grace was the worst, and Jamie Foxx was the wasted potential. But
I guess Jamie Foxx kind of wanted to show that he literally can do it all. Jamie Foxx is so charismatic, he can play a loser.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what his intention was going into it. Is in give me the comb over, I'll lose all the confidence. I'll be kind of goofy. There's a scene where he's walking around the apartment pretending that it's Spider-Man is showing up to his birthday.
Yeah, he's obsessed with his fucking birthday in this fucking movie.
Yeah, and he's he opens the fridge and there's a cake that he's obviously bought himself.
Yeah,
and he's like, "You bought me a cake," and it's cool. I get it. He's an actor. He's so I remember thinking at that stage, this dude is so comfortable in front of a camera.
He's got pure stand in this movie, though.
But at the same time, I get it. I get it. Hey, the ultimate charismatic. But I thought when he turned Electro, he'd be ultimately charismatic.
Yeah.
When it's me when Ipkiss puts on the mask.
Yeah.
And it's a complete inversion of himself.
I haven't seen that movie.
Everything. everything he wished he could be.
Stanley Ipkiss, is that his name in it?
Stanley Ipkiss is exactly right.
Yeah. Yes. Nerd callback.
Nerd callback. But he just got it, but when he became Electro, he was just kind of like a very powerful version of the exact person that he was.
Yeah, he's so needy in that movie, though. So needy. Just like, as I said to you earlier, it's like he's a cable guy turned supervillain. It's like, buddy, you need me? You need me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I just think that, like, when I like the scene kind of like where everyone sees him and that's when he becomes villainous. When everyone kind of sees him, like when he realizes all the attention he's getting. So he kind of starts leaning into the villainy. I kind of like that aspect of it, but it's because it's less on the nose. But like when you go, oh, he needs me. No, like we understand that this character has issues with needs and he's got self-esteem issues.
Yeah, Spider-Man says him at the start. He's like, my eyes and ears, I need you. He goes, need me.
I'm your friend. I'm your friend, Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like,
and I love the fact he turns evil because Spider-Man doesn't remember his name.
Yeah, it's like, dude, he saves thousands of people every week. Give him a break. You know what I mean?
In a city of millions.
Yeah,
and he kind of like because he shows up and like you have to understand like his first real like outing as Electro. His first real outing as Electro. He kind of like, oh, it's not my fault. I don't know what's happening, and he's kind of reacting, and sometimes his powers.
What do you make of how he got his powers before you jump into his first appearance?
I didn't like. I mean, it was a comic book, wasn't it? You know what I mean? It was silly and it was stupid. Electric eels. Electric eels. That's how. I remember. I said to myself when I watched it, "That's how I want to go."
Superpowered electric eels.
Superpowered moray eels or something.
He's like he's evil.
I like his performance, white, dour, and low energy was also electrical.
Yeah, he's like the Rock. He's the most electrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, pun's over.
No, for now, pun's over. But the first time he shows up, he's not even a bad guy. This is the thing that it's not even a bad guy. Like he accidentally, like a cop car is about to hit him or something, and he goes like and his powers kick in, and he lifts the car, all that kind of jazz. And then Spider-Man shows up. And it was only when Spider-Man forgot his name, didn't know his name was Max, that
it's like, dude, you're glowing blue. You look kind of different than when he saw you, at the very least.
Exactly. And then he just turns, then he actually just starts to kill people. And I was like, that's not character development.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that would have Michael Bay shaking his head going, nah. I just didn't see the progress of the character myself.
Michael Bay shaking these lovely long locks from side to side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
my disappointment is explosive.
No, but I like when I look at the Spider movies, right, and like when you see their problem is right that they didn't really know how to handle their villains after part 2. Venom's undercooked. I don't want to keep saying undercooked, but there's all these characters underdeveloped. You got Sandman, Venom. The new Goblin, and then Rhys Ifans was actually pretty good. I liked his portrayal of the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man 1.
But because he was the bad guy.
Singular
bad guy.
Yeah, it's singular. Like, that's the problem. Like, you need to pick a lanes, like is what you said earlier. Like, you can have the character development in the background, but you need to focus Spider-Man's attention on one particular bad guy. And make that bad guy's power set suit his well or counteract his well. You know what I mean? Like you can't have these like Sandman, or you can't have a Hydro Man or anything like this because it looks cool, and you can have these tsunamis or you can have sandstorms or whatever. But like it's not the same thing. Spider-Man's supposed to be the epitome of the down on the streets, kind of the lowest level form of superhero, and most of his fights on the streets are supposed to be like street fights, but taken to the next level. So that ends up in fisticuffs, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes like physics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's throwing kind of sewer caps at you and swinging in and using inertia against stronger characters, and it just sets up for kind of a kind of really cool, kind of vibrant, agile experience.
Uses his atmosphere well. You mentioned that in part 1.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like Jackie Chan on us.
I fucking Jackie Chan's a legend.
Jackie Chan's the greatest.
If put Jackie Chan in a ladder factory, he would have taken out the Nazis in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
it kind of I will say another kind of positive. I did like the airplane scene with the dad. I always like a good like the planes going down scene.
Yeah, what do you make of the fact that this version of Spider-Man really leaned in about how they wanted to make the backstory of his parents more well known?
I don't think they
more
did it
developed?
too badly. I have to say.
Do you think it's necessary to know these things?
No, necessary is a different question.
Yeah.
No.
Because, what is Richard Parker's role in the comic books? I never heard about him before the
you know what?
movies.
And I'm a big comic book guy, and I don't know. It's always Uncle Ben.
You know what I mean? So do you just think they try to make it different enough?
Yeah.
And they went out of their way to explain
you have to
Parker's genius
they,
as
they
well.
They bend over backwards to explain that they're trying to kill him because he's they're trying to kill him because he's turned on the company and stuff. But then he says that the genetics that are in the spiders he created are his.
Yeah, and that's why they counteracted with or react.
That's why they'll actually react with Tommy with Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But they kind of bent over backwards to kind of give him relevance and stuff like that, which I guess, like, if you want to like really expand the Spider-Man universe, makes sense to me, because I suppose it would have been strange if it was just a kid that accepted that his parents dropped him off when he was 6 and left, and that was all there was to it.
And he's so smart that he would find out what went on.
And he's so smart that he would find out. So I do get it. And then there's the whole subway tokens thing, and he goes down. There's a whole lab.
Yeah, which very persons of interest.
But I do kind of thought it was cool that, like, they explained that the spider would work with a spider with a Parker.
Yeah,
they wouldn't work with somebody else.
Yeah,
so that was cool because, like, in one way, it set up that we had Norman Osborn was dying.
Yeah,
Harry. Which one's which?
Harry's the son. Norman's the father.
Okay, yeah.
Norman's played by Chris Cooper in this, and Harry's played by Dane DeHaan.
But Harry is dying, and he knows he needs some of the spider venom. But it does kind of speak to it tried to get broad, and it tried to get, I don't know, like, it was fine. Some things I felt like they were trying to over-explain and
exactly
shoehorn things in.
Yeah,
and do one or the other, and I think the balance would have been like, dial this one down 20% and dial this one up 20%.
Yeah, it's kind of like the midichlorians explaining the Force. We don't need to know the background. Like, why was Peter Parker bitten and turned into Spider-Man? Because he was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't need to know the background of why.
In fact, to be honest, like, the whole thing that anyone can become a hero was always this kind of thing in comic bookdom. Like, there's exceptions. There's Thor, there's Iron Man. But you take Captain America, and you take Hulk, and you take Spider-Man, and you take Batman.
Yeah.
These guys trained or were in a certain circumstance or even in an accident, but they became.
Yeah.
And then they used who they were beforehand to decide to be heroes or not. But so they were supposed to speak to that, and this one kind of like shot on that a little bit by just kind of saying that it was kind of destiny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not quite being from Krypton.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
no need to explain it. There's
no need to explain it.
He got bit by a radioactive spider and he's Spider-Man. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, the midichlorians, don't correct me because I don't care.
Yeah. Why is the Force? Because it is. We don't need to know about midichlorians in the blood. We don't need to know that.
Absolutely.
Because it's a mystical force.
Why Gandalf the Grey, Gandalf the White? Because
why was he able to come back? Exactly. Exactly, because that's what happened. That's why he. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
This is it. Me and you are horror guys at our core, and we're always like, "Oh, why like zombie apocalypse?" And it was like, it's shot from the perspective of somebody who wakes up and their own, like, 28 days later, their own daughter's turned. They don't get explanations.
That's Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead, and that's like you go to bed at 12 o'clock and everything's fine, and you wake up at 10, the world's already ended.
Yeah,
you don't know.
It's like The Last of Us. You know what I mean? Like, if anyone's played the game series Last of Us, I was lucky enough to play them for the first time at the start of this year. But like, at the start of that, it's just a father getting his daughter out of bed kind of thing, and you see these news reports and stuff's happening. Unless you're on the front lines as a military operator, you're going to have very little information or knowledge about what's going on. It's kind of like in Cloverfield, when it's shot from the perspective of just these New Yorkers going through the chaos, and they only get glimpses of the monster, because of course they would. Unless you're in a helicopter or you're in a tank or you're an infantryman on the front lines, you're not going to get a good glimpse of the monster.
And it makes it work better.
Yeah,
that's what people, like, everyday people like you and me would be. We're not in the Pentagon. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, it's just what works. So yeah, no, I do think it tried to, but I guess it just tried to get it all out of the way. It was trying to build a big universe that ultimately never materialized.
When you compare like, because we don't really have much comparisons to make, like when you look at the different villains, because they're all different from one another, except for James Franco's portrayal of Harry Osborn and Dane DeHaan, who also played Harry Osborn in the two different Spider-Man universes. And I just wanted to ask you before we move on to move off villain talk, like, who do you think did it better? And not like, and did you think because it's harder to compare because only Dane DeHaan got one film, James Franco got three? Like, and how did you like the way, like, the look of the Goblin in terms of William Dafoe's suit, then James Franco's more modernistic snowboarder type take on it, to the Goblin suit in this movie, and how do you think the portrayal was, or whatever? You know what I mean?
Well, but appearance-wise, don't make me pick a winner. I can't be. I refuse for there to be a winner.
Why do they find it so hard to do a proper Green Goblin suit?
Because like Sheila said it best. She said about the first Spider-Man, the Maguire's first outing. The bad guy looked like a Power Ranger.
Yeah.
Like a Power Ranger bad guy. And you were expecting Rita Repulsa to make it big, and, And then like Harry
it's sort of, and again,
yeah, and then like they went more late noughties, and they made everything a bit more black and silver and sleek.
Yeah,
and he had essentially what was a snowboard that could fly.
Yeah,
and it was just, I guess because you pushed me into a corner, that was my favorite of the appearances. But like, I mean, obviously, you know what I mean? Like it's like a stabbing or a shot or poison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not question I wanted.
Like it's the only Spider-Man villain that we saw repeat at all, because he's got, as we're saying, the Rogues Gallery, whatever, is so deep that you can constantly have a different villain for every episode or every movie for Spider-Man, and that's the benefit of having that character. You know what I mean? And why he's so cinematic, or why you can make so many Spider-Man movies. But like, he's the only one really that you can compare directly, and like they got it wrong every single time. Like, he's supposed to be like Spider-Man's Joker nearly. And they got it wrong.
No, he is. Like, and I just backed up. He's the antithesis, if that I fucked up that word, and he's kind of like maniacal as well. You know what I mean? Like he is the kind of almost court jester kind of maniacal nature, and he was supposed to be in version. It's just Spider-Man has such a rogues gallery that a lot of people have kind of risen to the top. Unlike Joker and stuff, who's always kind of been there at the top for Batman.
And Venom became so popular later on.
And Venom became so popular, but he was just such a clever, just a clever power dynamic.
Created by Todd McFarlane, I think.
But yeah, no, I didn't like any of them. I like the new guy was the newest iteration definitely had the whole again, like I said, more Silicon Valley. But I kind of liked the actor was trying to make Harry his own.
Yeah,
like he was. Whether you liked it or not is a different conversation, but he was. He obviously had a cruel father, but he was born into enormous wealth. He obviously had a congenital disease, but he had massive power.
Yeah.
And he did seem to be both those things. He seemed to have a cockiness to him, and a confidence to him, and a pain to him.
Yeah.
So I thought he did well. Like, I mean, now, and again, like, I was thinking this when I was watching it. There's nobody, like, I thought the romance in this film annoyed me so much. But Emma Stone's a terrific actress.
Yeah, as I said last time, so charismatic, so likable.
Exactly.
Ridiculously
There's not ridiculously so. It's such a comfortable actress, so good in front of a camera. And she's she wasn't this lady tight with train tracks at any point, and I love that. But everything, the film would have been better without her, and that's not a slight against Emma Stone.
Yeah,
they lean too much into the tortured romance.
It was totally unnecessary to do that, wasn't there? After the way you finished part one, it's like she even said, it's like, I thought the reason you broke the promise because you loved me so much. That was what the whole relationship was supposed to be based on. He loved her so much that he went against her father's dying wish. That's what part one ended on. Spoiler alert, or whatever. But like, that's how part one ended. So like, when you have part two, you can't just go, oh, we need to have more torment in the romance aspect. Why can't she just be a part of it? Why can't she just be like, for lack of a better term, like a sidekick to him, where she helps him come up with these technologies, helps him develop new things for the suit, and she gets in the action with him, like not in a suit. Like you could, why not have Spider-Gwen? You know what I mean? Like, when you have Spider-Gwen in Spider-Verse, she was one of the best things about it. Like there's so many, like you could have easily done that. You could have built towards it, where she could have had her moment where she's like, next time, baby. Do you know, like the way Terrence Howard did the end of Iron Man 1, when he couldn't be more wrong. He didn't have it next time, but you know what I mean. Like she could have had that moment where she was developing the suit with him for her, and you could have had this whole next time thing, and she dies, and she never gets to wear the suit.
But Gwen was always supposed to die to play devil's advocate. I actually agree with you because
Mary Jane Watson had to become the new
love interest. MJ was always face a tiger. You just hit the jackpot. MJ was always supposed to be the one. But Gwen was the one he learned a lesson from, like an Uncle Ben in his relationship, an Uncle Ben in his sex life, an Uncle Ben in his kind of But it's true though, you know.
Yeah. The grounding
sex
force.
life Uncle Ben. Yeah. But like Gwen, I guess, was always destined to die. So I guess they had because he's a hero.
Yeah.
They always had to make sure that at some stage it wasn't just pure selfishness all of the way. It was a tortured decision. Like they even have a whole scene where she's running into the kind of power plant, even though she's trying to stop it, and she goes, "No, nobody tells me what to do. The decisions I make are mine.
Yeah.
Mine. I don't even care if I fall down a clock tower and you can't save me and I break my back and I die. My decisions, and you probably shouldn't feel guilty about it, and they're my decisions."
Yeah.
You know, they went down their way to kind of really, really overexpose that. So, but I guess I don't know. Spider-Man needed to be absolved. Like we still needed to be on his side.
Yeah.
So I guess if he was just so happy to break the vow of a dying man who died helping to save him and the city, all of this kind of stuff. But maybe the whole thing was unnecessary, bleeding back into the first film.
Yeah.
But you go into the second film, it's there. He had to try.
Yeah.
Because he has to be an all-rounded hero.
And they want this Spider-Man to be so tormented. Like in the first one, it was all about he was tormented over his like relationship with Uncle Ben and how that ended. And this one, like we need more torment. So the only torment he really had in his life was going against the dying wish of Captain Stacy in part one. And I think that's what they wanted. And I don't think it was necessary because you could have had a much lighter tone in the sequel, but it's also keeping serious undertones if you just don't have that distraction. Like, I just think you should have that. He loved her so much that he went against this man's dying wish, or whatever, and now he's going to stay with her forever. And then what happens? She dies, and the worst thing that could have happened was the thing that he went against ended up coming true because he didn't listen. And that's all you need to do. You know what I mean? Have that realization come to him when she dies. You know what I mean? That like,
how heavy is that though? The tone of this film is so fucking all over the place. Like, how heavy is that? No, again, we were trying to do the right thing, and it's not really your fault. But at the same time, you were there, literally there. You held Gwen Stacy's dad, played by Dennis Leary, Captain Stacy, I don't know his first name, but you held him as he died. Yeah. And you were literally, you just saved Gwen, but the actual, just the tension of the web just allowed enough slack for her to hit the ground, so it made no odds.
Yeah.
Sure, it pulled her back up, but the damage was done. So you're kind of there directly responsible for the death of two Stacys. One, the father of the woman you loved and an honourable man.
Yeah.
And two, the woman you loved yourself.
Well, he shouldn't feel any guilt over Gwen Stacy's father dying because he died in the line of duty. It's his job to put himself there.
Yeah. Oh no. But his dying wish.
Yeah. Was yeah.
That's where he comes into it. His dying wish. Like, he died valiantly, and that's not anything for anyone to carry pain in that sense.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. It was juxtaposed that just do the right thing.
Yeah.
And the right thing might have been to keep her out of it. But then, of course, the story was clever enough to make sure that had he kept her out of it, they mightn't have been able to save the city. Don't forget that they had the two planes on a direct path.
Yeah.
Because Electro was absorbing all of the electricity, so the radar was down.
Yeah. What did you make of the overall climax? Because we touched on Gwen Stacy's death. We talked about Electro. You talked about the planes almost colliding. And then, Green Goblin. So how did you feel about how Jamie Foxx pretty much dies with about half an hour left in this movie?
How honest am I allowed to be?
I'll be honest as you want.
Cool. All right. So I was really, really hungover one time. And I was in bed. I couldn't even really sit up. And, I suffer quite badly from anxiety. It was tough. So all I could think to do for the day was wank. And I think I got honest. To yeah, okay. No, I'm in it now. And so I kind of got to wank number 10.
I can't cut all of this.
No, Carl, don't cut any of this. This is my heroic journey. and then I got to like blank number 10, and then like I honest to God like was kind of getting there, and then honest to God like during the sensation of masturbation, that everything that can be called a sensation cut out halfway through, as in like just like phantom hands like grasping at air, and that's what the last half hour of this film felt like.
Right, cut at around 52, 54.
There. Now that is, if that's not the most honest fucking summation of the film.
Right, so I'll do is I'll pose that question to you again.
All right, no, you can. I don't think we should cut it off because like, what do we care? I know the last half hour of the film, I felt like, you know what I felt like, and I'll be honest, I won't go into a kind of gross story for laughs, but I actually just felt like, you know, when you just feel like I don't know, like to put it into a normal circumstance, you know, you kind of feel like, oh shit, like this damage is done.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm after messing this up, or I'm after dropping and breaking the glass, and I'm after doing all this shit. I can't undo that, but like I'll tidy up as best I can.
Yeah.
I've stained this, I've broke this, I've scratched this.
Yeah.
But I'll clean up as best I can. And I feel like at this stage of the film, I feel like I based this on nothing. I've read nothing. I feel like he was kind of going, oh God, I'm gonna have to tie this up some way, aren't I?
Yeah.
And that's how it felt.
How did you like Dane DeHaan completely jumping into like, oh yeah, I'll be a supervillain now, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what you
and I want to kill Spider-Man, but I'll wait until after he somehow defeats the demigod.
Yeah.
That is. Oh, this needs to be said. And Carol, if you're listening to this, I honestly God think this should be at the intro, because I think this should be the summary. Electro had a sensor to let him know if he was overpowered, and he put it on his temple where he couldn't possibly see it.
I didn't even know he said it to me.
It's when he dissolves at the end, the sensor falls down, and I realized that was on his temple. His temple. Like in scenario, kind of going, I better check if
the last fight scene with Electro is so disappointing. Like even does.
But just think about it. It's exactly like putting a watch there. Let's just say that you're just thinking, oh, I might need to know what time it is, so I'll put a watch on my temple.
No, like it's more like a heart rate monitor or something.
Exactly. Like it's all the same. It's don't put it somewhere where you can't observe it.
Yeah. Hope there's mirrors.
Is that? Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go for a run, and I'm going to time myself. See if I can do an 8-minute mile, and I'll put it here on my temple.
It feels like 8 minutes to me.
Yeah, it feels like 8 minutes to me. It was so unnecessary.
What do you think the itsy bitsy spider thing?
No comment.
How unnecessary was that scene?
Man, there was so like, okay, you text me on WhatsApp in our little group with our. There's a little group for those listening.
Don't tell him.
Us, it's me, Vinny, and the magician behind the scenes, Carol, who definitely deserves a shout out. But it was you saying that. God, what was it you were saying? I've lost my train of thought.
Is it the lines of dialogue I sent you?
Oh God, yeah. It was like I had a friend once. It didn't work out. Me neither. Now let's go catch a jumper spider.
Yeah.
And I picture like some dude. I used to picture some dude in like late 2012, early 2013, and he's just sitting there, kind of going, "Now let's catch ourselves a spider, honey. Come here, I've done it.
Nailed it.
Done it. No, like so. He's all like, and then he goes, "Let's catch ourselves a spider."
He's like, no, I was watching the movie earlier, and I was like, I'm kind of enjoying this. And then as soon as Jamie Foxx Electro gets captured and Dane DeHaan kind of takes over as the villain, the movie completely goes off the rails. Like from then on outwards, the last 40 minutes of the movie completely goes off the rails. It gets so cheesy. The dialogue is awful. Dane DeHaan is like, oh well, I'm going to be a supervillain now. And like immediately he's like, I'm going to kill Spider-Man because he won't give me his blood because he didn't want me to die. He's literally, his reason was, I don't think I should give you my blood in case we're not compatible and it might actually die. And it's like, what am I going to do? Die even faster or something? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like with your degenerative disease, your father lives to live as an old man.
That's an excellent point,
you know
which
what
I didn't.
You know what I mean?
Like, be honest with you, like, there's a whole scene where he goes in and sees the dad, and the dad has like the huge long
Howard
nails,
Hughes.
and and he's
Bruce Caboose.
and he's all this kind of jazz, and he's I think they actually, you know what it is. Sometimes I'm randomly going to numbers, but it said he, you know, because when they went back into the center, the Oscorp, it says, you know, like Norman Osborn, 51 to 2014. Yeah. So I met him like 63 kind of area.
You know what I mean? And what, Dane DeHaan's character is supposed to be in his early 20s?
22 tops.
Oh no, I'm going to die in 50 years.
Like, you know, the dude, like, they're supposed to be, if they're best friends who went to school, that kind of shit, they were 17 in 2012.
Yeah.
So they're 19 in 24. Now, don't get me wrong, a degenerative disease, my dad has a degenerative disease. You're not going to see me fucking shitting on degenerative diseases. Yeah. But the point for a storytelling analysis, that you start to lose your absolute fucking mind when you own a genetic lab.
Yeah, and you have
22
and you possibly 40 to 50 years to figure out.
Yeah, and you kind of go, well, maybe radioactive spider blood. And you kind of go, no. There's steps to radioactive spider blood.
That should be maybe 10 years' time when we're getting a little more desperate.
Yeah. And I'd love to be like the scientist that kind of goes, all right, so we're starting with radioactive spider blood.
And Norman Osborn's like, sold. He said of a bitch.
And he goes, you know, like, you know, just help me out here, Mr. Osborn. The radioactive spider blood doesn't work. The floor is yours. I'm just going to sit here silently. Where do we go from there?
Is Norman Osborn's like, I don't even care. You had me at radioactive spider blood.
Yeah.
$50 million, Mr. Parker.
Yeah.
Underground laboratory, you say?
You know what was really weird? Again, this is the thing I was saying about the really yo-yoing effects of this film, right? There was one point where I actually really loved this film. Like, you know, when I say really loved, you know, like, it was yo-yoing. So sometimes I was there and sometimes I was completely not. So one moment I was there, and this doesn't lead to a stupid joke. I'm actually critiquing the film.
Wait for
it, yeah, I know. But it's when Spiderman, who nobody knows is Peter Parker, shows up at Osborn's, you know, penthouse office suite, both mixed, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
And he kind of goes like, and he kind of tell him he's not going to give him his blood. And he says, "Oh, I see. How much?" He goes, "How much do you want?" And he goes, "I don't want your money." And he goes, "Everyone wants my money." And I was going, "This is cool. Yeah. This is acting. Yeah. This is acting."
He's a good actor, Dane DeHaan.
Because he's a good actor, like, you know. He kind of goes, "Everyone wants money." And even though, like, Garfield was in the mask and the full get up, he just kind of shakes his hand and goes, "I don't."
Yeah.
Just said, "I don't." Because everyone wants my money. He goes, "I don't."
Yeah, that's one of the best scenes of the whole movie.
Probably the best scene in the whole movie, now that I'm looking at it. Because even just thinking about it, that just the film file, whatever, in me, just kind of goes, that was a cool scene, because he kind of he throws money at it. He goes like, "There, okay, you're like, oh, I don't know how much I want to let my Camaro go for. It's been in the family for 20. They don't build them like this anymore." And it's like, okay, not 13 grand, I'll give you 15 grand.
Yeah.
You know, because your man treated it like haggling, but it wasn't. He was genuinely concerned.
Yeah, it's the principle
about what could happen. He was actually being a good person. And even though Garfield was under the Spider-Man mask, I actually just felt like he really, really got the scene. He just kind of, he goes, "Everyone wants my money," and I felt like he was both Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
At that moment, because he kind of went.
He's a very good Spider-Man though, and Peter Parker. Like, you know, he took, like, I think the difference between him and Tobey Maguire is that Tobey Maguire didn't seem like he took the role completely seriously, whereas Andrew Garfield took everything seriously. Like, he wanted to be funny. He took the comedy seriously, if that makes sense. He took the drama seriously. He took the action seriously, the movement seriously, mannerism seriously. Like, as we talked about in the first part of Amazing Spider-Man, he's the most spidery of all Spider-Man. And even when he's he's constantly moving. Like, he's like, you know what I mean? He's always forward motion in the action sequences. He never stops. You know what I mean? And one thing I like about he's never stationary. And that one thing I like that I think over Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he always looked much more comfortable as Peter Parker. And even in the suit, he looked more believable and more comfortable than Tobey Maguire.
He does. He just had a, and also I know this kind of maybe a weird thing to focus in on. There's something a little bit like I don't know. Honest to God, and I'm saying this for the first time in my life, is that Maguire's Spider-Man is not aging particularly well with me.
Yeah.
Like I still love them. I still love the first two movies, but there was something so like obsessed with Mary Jane or something so bad about the third one. There was something about Garfield. Especially, sorry, I'm going to make a point convoluted, and I don't aim to, but especially, all I ever wanted was to see Spider-Man in the MCU.
Yeah.
But after seeing him on such a huge scale, like a truly epic scale, and that's like chasing down the Infinity Gauntlet that wiped out half the universe to take down the past Thanos, who only exists because of the times aspect of the Infinity Gauntlet, with other people who had come back from death because of the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's as high concept as it gets. There was something about the groundedness of Garfield. Like, just it's like Batman with Gotham. When it's Michael Keaton or when it was Christian Bale. Unlike Affleck, is in like, it was just Batman and Gotham. It wasn't huge concept. There was something about the ungroundedness of it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's unlikely, but there's something, I don't know. There was something
like,
grounded about it. Garfield just did that well, man.
It's like
it just felt like he did it well.
Wasn't his Spider-Man kind of like an exaggerated version of Charlie Cox's take of Daredevil? Like, they never this whole, like the whole thing where he's always covered in cuts and bruises and dirty, and he's constantly getting changed, and the Spider-Man suit's like soaking wet, or he's spitting out feathers. Like, Daredevil, I know, is obviously far more gritty. But like the whole way through that, he's always constantly got black eyes, he's covered in bruises. You actually see the suffering his body goes through. I think that's what Garfield's one did better than Tobey Maguire's or even Tom Holland's later on.
You know, it's funny you say that. I'll say something again. It's just a thought I had in the back of my head that I never verbalized. But Charlie Cox made me like Wolverine. Like, still love Wolverine, but like him less. Because you know what? I like him beat up. Charlie Cox's Daredevil made me like Wolverine less, because I liked them beat up.
Yeah.
Like, I liked them beat up. You know what I mean? Like,
you want to see that cost.
Well, I always kind of, I was only saying something today. There was a really, really funny thing I seen going around, and it was something about Justin Bieber pulling out of a concert because he had the flu. And then there was Gary Holt, who used to be the lead guitarist of Exodus, who's now the lead guitarist of Slayer, and he had a Kill the Kardashians t-shirt on, and he was bleeding all over his guitar because he'd cut his fingers to shit, and he didn't give a fuck because there was a show to do. And you just think, yes, I want them beat up and I want them rocking.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Fucking the best example I can think, Mike Flynn of Machine Head, he had a severe diarrhea on the tour. So he threw on a goddamn nappy. And he went on stage and shot himself in front
of the crowd. That's why rock stars are superheroes.
That's why rock stars are superheroes. And I realized that you need them. You need consequences. There needs to be a toll.
Yeah.
Because if you I'm here and healing from a knee surgery. It's going to take months.
Yeah.
That's what life is. And there's something about like not just being able to bounce back. I don't want that in my superheroes.
It's even like
Charlie Cox is a great example of that, because he actually suffers for his craft.
Yeah.
And Garfield suffered for his craft. So I do think the correlation stands up. I do.
Yeah.
I think Garfield was a terrific Spider-Man. I think Garfield deserved better than this fucking film.
Yeah. I just think he was unlucky in terms of timing, something we talked about before. And we have to be grateful for what led to Spider-Man's inclusion in MCU. So we'll talk about more.
Sorry, you said this to me.
We'll talk about in the second half of the show after the break, I think, because we can really throw it into the what if, because there's a lot of what ifs about this movie. We could talk about what if, like what could have occurred, what might have led to, what it did lead to. We could talk about all that in the second half, I think, because I think there's going to be a lot of meat there that we can go through. In terms of Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland and all that, what led to and all that shit. But I think in when you encompass this movie, it was a missed opportunity to have a greater universe. I totally understand what they were trying to do. They kind of suffered from the same problems that Warner Brothers and DC suffered with, trying to do too much, too quick, too soon. They really wanted that Sinister Six movie so badly, but you have an actor like Paul Giamatti, you give him 5 minutes at the start, 5 minutes at the end. it shows you how crowded your movie is, you know.
Yeah, he was solid. But you know, sometimes it's nice to flaunt, you know, like Drew Barrymore getting killed in the first 8 minutes of Scream, you know. Sometimes they like to flex.
Yeah, no, I just think it was like, don't forget about this guy, you know, because there was all building to what was going to come next, you know, Vulture, like, you know, because we see that scene at the end where that guy has Mr. Fear.
Vulture, Doc Ock, and Rhino. He walks by the.
Yeah, I think it was like Mr. Fierce or something. I think his name was, or something. The computer says when he comes in. I think I don't know the character because like, so he goes through, like, as we said, they're building to all that, and the end was kind of like, don't forget about this guy. And I just want to say, what did you make of the Rhino suit?
Right, you know what, you know, because I just, you know, there's things you take for granted and there's things you didn't think about. Always in the comics, essentially was a really, really, really big dude, cosplaying as a rhino, and, you know, because he had the horn but like it literally looked like a rubber suit that was on him. Like he was himself a Hulk character.
Yeah,
like that he was
like a juggernaut or something.
Yeah, exactly, like a juggernaut. Yeah, like who had been blessed by Sitarak, the god of destruction or some shit. Anyway, I'm trying to show off my comic.
I actually didn't know that. So
the Rock of Sitarak. That's what Juggernaut is first.
Actually, no.
But he so I guess, like, to be fair to the film, and I didn't particularly like it, but to be fair to the film, like, what were they supposed to do? They weren't going to take a dude who's like blocky for probably 5'5" and put a rubber suit on him and say he has like, you know, Hulk level strength.
Yeah.
No. So they had to give him something a bit more biometric and stuff like that. So yeah, like, and especially when it was just supposed to set up the universe, and he would be one of the weaker characters. Like Rhino was always a brawler. He wasn't a Doc Ock.
Yeah,
he wasn't a high concept bad guy.
No grace.
So yeah. You know what? I hated it when I seen it first, to be honest. But it's not. It's fine. Like I just thought they were trying to set up.
It's very Ed 209, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It's Ed 209 RoboCop for those who are confused.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever. It was fine. I didn't give a shit. Who gives a shit with Rhino?
Yeah, I liked it when it was charged.
He would be good to build up to something. Oh yeah, it's cool. Like,
when it was charged, I didn't like this design of the suit overall because I think you lead that motherfucker down a flight of stairs like Ed 209. He's done for. You know what I mean? Because the feet are so small and look so top heavy. But I
love the fact that he's in the suit and he keeps insisting on, like, opening up the panel in front of his face.
It's like Iron Man. Because remember, at this stage,
they're kind of going like, don't do that.
Yeah, I just think at this stage, you see Ironmonger, like Jeff Bridges' portrayal of Ironmonger, and its suit looked very similar in how it opened up. He was positioned in the center every time he had to talk. So yeah, you have to remember, like, the MCU's influence on these later Spider-Man movies cannot be denied. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they really were reacting instead of being like the thing with the first Spider-Man movies. They were being proactive. Everybody wanted to see a Spider-Man movie, and it hadn't happened really yet. And they were being proactive, and then they just brought out these movies. We had no expectations, and then with the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, they were being very reactive. Their style, their tone, everything was like, how did Marvel do it? Can we copy Marvel? Can we do MCU on this? Can we expand our universe? All these things was all reactionary to what Marvel did or what they were doing at the time. And I think that's why these movies failed, because they were just trying to imitate instead of, like, creating their own thing. And I think, like, nowadays you can see it even in their movies, like a Venom, that influence the MCU on their movies. They try so hard to emulate the MCU movies, you know, and that's a problem, because if you're trying to create your own universe, but I think maybe they were trying to, like, we'll create a universe that we can run adjacent to the MCU, so similar in tone that when the MCU are happy enough with, we can join them, and there's no discrepancies, and you don't have to make this PG-13 and it used to be R-rated or whatever. You know, like the issues they're having with Deadpool. Like, how are they going to, you know, incorporate him in because of his R rating and shit like this?
And the fact that he can't stand Scarlett Johansson, apparently.
Who, Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, they were married. It got ugly. I don't
know. So, like, when you look back at this movie, Noel, have you have anything more to say before we go to the break? Like,
no, not in the can't wait till after the break.
Because I think all the big stuff's going to be in the second section. Because, like, right now we're just giving our opinions about how the movie was, but with the big stuff, it's like what the movie could have been and what could have led to and what ramifications it had.
I wonder if it was like a terrific film and the editor was drunk. There you go. That's my thought going into the break.
Yeah, I just think, like, as you said, there's a problem with the tone of it. It didn't know what it wanted to be. It wanted to be a bit more serious than your average superhero movie, but at the same time, it wanted to hold on to the same comedic elements that Marvel were doing in the MCU. And it went overboard with the cheese, like it always does. Like when Marvel do cheese, they know how to do it right. So it doesn't really like go, ugh. It makes you go, hilarious, pure cheese. You know what I mean? It gives you a positive reaction instead of a negative reaction. And then I think the problem with the Sony movies is anytime it went cheesy, it just hit you wrong. And so they were becoming a little bit unforgivable, at times. But I
so we become the unforgivable. That's a Metallica thing for all you rockers out there.
So before we go to the break, Noel, we done talking about Amazing Spider-Man 2 for now?
Yes, we're going to go to the break, and I have some thoughts when we get back.
All right, cool. See you after the break. This is Dark Side of the Moon. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel-John Tootie. We'll be back in a few minutes, folks. Now a word from our sponsors.
Stan's got a plan for Spider-Man to keep him away from the fly if he can.
Now Screech's Spider-Man race set lets a kid pretend he's Spider-Man. No tracks to assemble, 4 batteries not included. Spider-Man gets through the spider leader and over the flap trap, but the fly has to wait to get through the spider cave. Spider-Man gets by the blowout trap.
But not the fly.
The Screech's Spider-Man race set comes with everything you see. Some assembly required from Aurora.
And we're back from the break. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel-John Tootie. This is Dark Side of the Moon. And now what we're going to do is, in the second half of the show, like we always do, is we're going to postulate, we're going to throw up things in the air, and we're going to say, what if could have been, how this movie could have played out, if things happened differently, what could have led to. Like, usually in what if, we kind of sit in metaphysical or, director's chairs and we decide whether or not what we would have changed in this movie. And I think a different way to look at the what if, and this is like, what if this movie had been a success, even though it grossed 790 million or something, it was like, it did well in the box office, just critically, like with the fans, what if, would have been possible. It's a big difference. Like, because Noel, you made a good statement before after we stopped recording there last time with Amazing Spider-Man 1, that this movie might be the most consequential superhero movie in history in terms of what happened and what preceded, what succeeded or followed. So, no, what can you tell the listeners what you think and how?
Well, yeah, I apologize for people because Vinny said we were going to postulate, but I think I might extrapolate.
Yeah, did I use that wrong? Did I?
No. I just
I
literally just thought of another 3-syllable word. I just wanted the people to think I was smart.
I'm like, shit, I'm writing a book. I need to know what words mean.
But anyway, this is a fact as far as I'm concerned. Because I know there's, what if Michael Keaton had done Batman Forever? Or what if, anyway, there's just 101 things. But this film was supposed to lead to a Sinister Six, which would have been a huge Spider-Man. Definitely the biggest budget film that Sony had released so far, but because of its critical failure as opposed to financial failure, which it didn't have, they ended up, in a murky way, they ended up giving the rights to Marvel. So the Holland was able to become Spider-Man, and Spider-Man was able to show up in Civil War, and that was massive. We never thought we'd see it. And it brought us back to that, like, you'd rather have a slice of the cake than no cake.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be in on the ground floor, and some ground floor is an awful way to put it, because that's not at all what fucking Civil War was. But had Spider-Man 2 landed, they would have could have literally took Marvel on. They could have, because Spider-Man isn't the Marvel universe, but he has the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
You could have turned, especially like the ambiguous characters or the anti-hero characters like Morbius, you could have turned good, bad, good, like uneasy alliances. With a bit of clever writing, Spider-Man can be an entire universe in and of himself.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted, obviously. I mean, they literally showed us the Oscorp thing. They had the Rhino suit, the Vulture suit, and the Doc Ock suit. And they had Electro, who was like dispersed to the four winds. But was he dead? Harry wasn't dead. So you could literally have a Sinister Six, a Sinister Eight. But the critical failure of this film meant that Endgame happened. It meant that we seen Spider-Man, man. It meant that Holland got the job. Like, it meant that he's famous.
Yeah.
It was a huge ripple effect. Absolutely huge. And when I was walking out of the cinema, I remember thinking to myself, that's the second time I've seen this franchise killed.
Yeah.
And it was.
It's so hard, though, as well, when you have two franchises played by two different actors so close to one another as well.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just kind of, it must be harder to go to the money bags and go, right, so I'm going to revamp the universe. Going, what are you talking about, dude? We created it in 2001. We revamped it in 2012.
Yeah.
With 5 films under the belt.
Yeah, 2 different Spider-Man as well.
2 different Spider-Mans. What are you talking about? Because Marvel is making bank. And we could literally, just to sign something that says you can use the words Spider-Man is worth, whatever X amount of millions to us. So I get it. But they shot the bed twice. What else is there to say?
Yeah, no, I think as well, like the ramifications, like poor Drew Goddard, I was talking to you about a little bit before, he'd signed on as showrunner for Daredevil, and he ended up having to leave that because he was going to write and direct the Sinister Six movie that in turn never happened, which was kind of like hard. There's a lot of problems with, they were creating a universe and they had all these plans, but because they rushed it, it actually turned out to be a great thing for Marvel. And then we had the Sony hacks and the fact that it became public that they were in discussions with Marvel, so the pressure for them to actually go and not only not give the rights back to Marvel, but to allow Spider-Man's inclusion in the MCU was turned up tenfold, because we knew that these kind of discussions were going on in the background. Or I think it was Amy Pascal was behind it in Sony. I think she eventually branched off and she Pascal Pictures or something does a lot of the Spider-Man work and stuff on MCU, and the expanded Spider-Man stuff now with Venom, the Spider-Verse movie with Chris Miller, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but I think it had such a huge ramifications because Sony slightly restructured. They looked at the way Spider-Man was handled. They realized the best thing to do is to just, if you can't beat them, join them. You know what I mean? And then we talked about how they got the goodwill from joining up with Marvel. So the Venom movie and Spider-Verse were more really positively received, because everyone was looking at Sony and just they were happy. They saw that the fans really wanted Spider-Man to join the MCU. And Andrew Garfield was really unlucky in his timing, because he was actually one of the strongest, if not the strongest, Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I just think because of Tom Holland's age, he suits the character more, because he can allow that character to grow with him and stuff. But,
yeah, that's it. Literally allow the character to grow with him.
Yeah.
It's not a metaphor or anything. It was age appropriate.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. There's so much what ifs, that could have come from this movie if it was successful. I know, it did nearly 800 million Spider-Man movies, under guaranteed bank in the box office. They always are. He's one of the most known, likable, mainstream superheroes out there. He's a real pinnacle. He'd be along the lines of in terms of popularity with Superman, Batman. He's a real A-level superhero, That's why Sony held on to him for so long, because he was a money maker. That's why they rebooted so quickly after the Tobey Maguire trilogy, because he's a guaranteed money maker. The movie's probably made $1.5 billion in and around between the two of them, not to be scoffed at. It's just not the kind of consistent numbers Marvel were chalking up at the time. They were constantly doing $1 billion movie, and Marvel movie does well, it's 600 or 700 million. You know what I mean? But if it does really well, it's $1 billion movie every time. And I think that's why when Sony looked at the numbers, they looked at the critics, they looked at general fan reception, they're like, we're out. You know what I mean? It's not out all the way, but let's Marvel handle Spider-Man, let them revamp him, and then now we can run our Spider-Verse adjacent, like we talked about with Venom. I think they're talking about a Black Cat movie. What else? Michael Morbius, we touched on last time with Jared Leto. So this movie, even though it didn't lead to the things that Sony wanted to originate with the Sinister Six movies, but I think in the end it's still going to lead. to what Sony were planning originally, because I think Marvel are going to go the Sinister Six route over the next few Spider-Man movies, because they're going to bring back Doc Ock potentially with the Multiverse of Madness maybe in this next Spider-Man movie. Going to bring back Jamie Foxx as Electro. We already heard. They already have Michael Keaton as Vulture. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Green Goblin. So like if it's going to be James Franco or Dane DeHaan, because he's the only one that was cast twice. Bring back both of them maybe. You got Reese Ifans as the liver as the lizard if you want. So the Sinister Six is there potentially already nearly. I think the Shocker appeared in one of the in Spider-Man 1, Homecoming. So like I can see the Sinister Six already starting to come to fruition, and I can see Sony's grand plan is kind of acting out in a slightly different way than they wanted. But I mean, you have the likes of Venom on the horizon, Carnage, who was played by Woody Harrelson. That the Spider-Man universe is looking more healthy now than I think it ever has, really. Like, you know, so even though it didn't work out first of all for Sony, I think it's going to work out for them in the end. You know,
I agree with you actually. Yeah, but that just goes to show the public hunger. Like they can make a Morbius film, and Sheila, my partner Sheila, watched it and went, "Who?" And I went, I explained briefly on Morbius. She goes, "Oh yeah, I'd watch that." I was like, yeah, it used to be a case where you had to make a Superman film or a Batman film or a Spider-Man film, like you said. But now you can people are they're so hungry for it that that Sony know, like, yeah, we still got some property here.
Yeah, exactly.
So what if the comics aren't that big? Like, we get in a big actor, we try and execute it well.
Make good movies.
We're gold. Make good movies, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's like, even though like I'm not Venom's biggest fan, but like it's still better than Topher Grace's portrayal. So I like improvement. I'm not going to go shit all over Sony and go, Tom Hardy is not the best Venom of all time. He's a better Venom than Topher Grace. So I understand that you're making better choices now. So I'm going to be more forgiving, and I'm going to allow Tom Hardy's progression as Venom, whereas I'm not going to shit all over. And because I understand that he said our mistakes were we couldn't handle Spider-Man in the way that character needed for the wider audience. So let's give Spider-Man to the MCU and let's see how we can handle these other characters. And once again, the goodwill that they've garnered from doing that decision, I'm going to give them more time with Venom. I'm going to be more happy to see a Venom Carnage second movie. I'm going to be more happy to watch a Michael Morbius movie, because they know they're making different decisions now and they want to do something a little different and they want to improve upon what they did before. So that's where, like, you know, the goodwill they get when you see them saying, we could handle Spider-Man, we give it to Marvel. Now we're getting all this goodwill for Venom, Spider-Verse. Like Spider-Verse is a fantastic movie, don't get me wrong. I just think, like, you know, it was so well received as well because of the goodwill they earned by allowing Marvel to take over the rights. Not rights, but, you know, the creative control of Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think they played it smart because they didn't sign over Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels at all. And obviously, whatever they did, it made Spider-Man's stock go up.
Yeah.
So, and then now if they're going to introduce the multiverse, I don't know what way ownership owned. Obviously, Holland is Marvel. But, they might...
Sony owned all the rights. All the rights. Marvel have a creative control in a sense, but Sony still call a lot of the shots. Sony owned the Spider-Man rights. That's why those movies were made so regularly, because they had to make a movie every certain amount of years or before a certain time, otherwise the rights revert back to Marvel. And that's why we had 5 Spider-Man movies. You know what I mean? That's why we had
now we've got 7.
Yeah, that's why we had that.
And he showed up in another, like, 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, and that's why we had the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie, because the rights would revert back to Marvel, I'm pretty sure, if it had been made. Excuse me. And that's why, like, you know, Fox were, you know, pushing certain movies were made at certain times and rushed in certain ways because the rights would have gone back to Marvel otherwise. You know what I mean? So it's a big rights issue, but, like, it's cool when you see 2 big juggernaut companies like Sony, like Marvel and Disney or whatever, come together and go, we're just going to give the fans what they want, because they're going to make money at the end of the day. Spider-Man is so bankable. Like, we're going to make money. Just give us what we want. Give us the Spider-Man we think we need, and then we're going to go to all your movies. Like, all the Spider-Man movies, are like the Marvel Spider-Man movies, did they make $1 billion? Like, probably close to that, if not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and like, what that amazing, like, line where he was like, it's like Underoos or something, and then Spider-Man comes in.
Underoo! And then he takes Captain America's shield.
Like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God! Like, you know what I mean? Marvel do that better than anyone. It just give you that oh my God moment where you're just like a kid again for a couple of seconds. And that's just what the Sony movies lacked, I think. The big reveals. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't land because, like, you're like, you're doing this constantly. Like, you're like, Electro could have been so much better. Jamie Foxx is a world class actor. You know what I mean? Like, Dane DeHaan's a really good actor. Why are you giving him such a long super fringe? And why does Sony everything that makes someone why does Sony everything that makes someone evil to give him a long fringe? Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3. It's like, we're just gonna make him parties here to the left.
It wasn't evil Spider-Man, it was arrogant emo Spider-Man. It was like, Jesus Christ. God.
You know what I mean? That's the problem with Sony. Like, the in the earlier Spider movies, there was too many times we went, oh God. Like, even today, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a neat movie up until about the big reveals, pretty much. Electro, that seems a bit cheesy. I don't like that ridiculous slow motion. I don't like when
it was hyper slow motion as well, wasn't it?
It's like
because it was something that would play out. It was something to play out in at tops 2 seconds.
Yeah, I just don't like that. Like,
and it was like
action sequences should be so fast.
I like that. I mean, I have to admit, it was I kind of like, I like the visual aspect, but I knew I was enjoying it. I hated it on first view, and I knew I was enjoying it because why not?
Yeah,
I had no investment in that sort of sense. He saves a whole bunch of people while backflipping up a staircase, essentially. But yeah, there was no consequence of it. You know what, man? There's stuff that could have worked if it was, I don't know, directed better. I think I could shit on the people behind the camera more than the people in front of it.
Yeah, you just, like, what you mean? Do you mean, like, you think the actors are less to blame?
I think the actors just did the job that was given to them.
Yeah, as always.
I think Emma Stone's I said this already. I think Emma Stone's a terrific actress, but she was surplus to the man.
Yeah.
She was just surplus to the man. Or just have her show up and be her kick-ass self. Instead of the whole, like, will they, won't they? That wasn't good for either of them.
Yeah, it's unnecessary, too, because how they wrapped up part one. Like, they should have just had her come on board. Like, just help him design stuff. She's supposed to be this brilliant genius. Why wouldn't he take advantage of that? Because, like, you know what I mean? Why wouldn't he say, like, oh, I'm looking at her as my equal. If I'm able to do it, and she's smarter than me, she's first in the class, I'm second, or whatever. So if she wants to be a part of this life, why not use her genius to help him design suits, and eventually, as I said to you, have that Spider-Gwen suit. And then, like, literally you could have her design her own suit and she never gets to use it because she dies at the end of this movie. You know what I mean? When we look back through it, like, we saw the Sony hacks had Sony hacks had an influence on it. The critical failure of Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then what led to all that. We talked about that what if, but, like, going back to what we normally do with what if is where we break down what we would have changed about the movie if we were the director or whatever. And you look back at this movie, Noel, what would you have changed about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 in terms of its overall story and whatnot?
Right. If I was to take one thing I would have changed, it would have been, the way they made this film?
Yeah.
That. I would have changed that.
You wouldn't have made it?
Oh, of course. I mean, like, of course, like, I mean, you make, look, it's the same with sport. It's the same with fucking everything, man. Yeah. We get enamored with it and we love it, and that's fine. That's cool. I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
But it's a money game and it's a results game. It's like a sport. It's a fucking results game. If you get over the line, good. If you get very far over the line, even better. It's the flourish. This film, if I would have met it, I would have, like, this is my absolute rule number one. I think Harry Osborn should have been introduced fine, and they should have built to, like, his influence, his technology, his kind of like his Wayne Corpness, except for nefarious reasons. And Electro should have been the bad guy. Yeah. And then he could have fought Electro, but, like, maybe Harry Osborn could have learned a lot about how powerful Spider-Man is. Yeah. Because he does piss about a lot. He's an extremely powerful dude.
Yeah.
So they not jammed it with characters to fight Spider-Man, because the action scenes actually were not the worst part of this film. I think, like, obviously taking Jamie Foxx and making him I mean, you can't have a bad guy. I'm going to go nuclear, and then I'm going to go to what I think is a pitiful example, and that is Electro. I'm going to say Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
You know, do you remember when he sets like at least something like $1 billion on fire?
Yeah.
Because that's what he was about.
Exactly. It's because some men just want to watch the world burn.
Exactly. And it was almost like this chaotic, revolutionary, perhaps, or terrorist, or whatever you want to call it, but almost a belief system in a fucking crazy way that you yourself have to process.
Cannot be negotiated with.
Yeah, you have to take him in. You literally have to take him in. And I didn't know what to make of him even by the end of it, but I knew he was amazing. Like, you know, as in I knew I just watched an amazing performance. You know what's not an amazing performance? Somebody who, if you remember when their birthday is, they use his godlike power. It was such a...
He's fucking obsessed with his birthday in this movie,
the thing
though.
I'm been such a nerd. I was born in 1983, so I'm exactly 55 years older somehow than anyone who's listening to this.
I'm pretty sure if anyone listened to an earlier episode, they'd know you're 87 years old, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 77, so shit.
No, you know what this is? Like, we brought... No one likes our podcast. We broadcast it into space, and we're the biggest thing on Romulan Cephalon 9.
Well, but, of course. What if you're not in the Romulan markets? Then who are you nowadays? You know what I mean? Like, if Elon Musk has taught us anything, you got to be in the Romulan markets. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying too.
We're innovators. That's what we do.
I lost my train of thought. What was the last thing I said?
You were talking about. You were just talking about how Heath Ledger's portrayal of.
Yeah, sorry, but like he just like I think the worst thing he did because oh god, man, it was almost 1960s Batman comical, as in you had like Jamie Lee Foxx as in I'm a scientist, but I'm actually quite nervous. And,
Jamie Foxx.
I'm not very good with girls, and he's.
You call him Jamie Lee Foxx.
Jamie Lee Foxx. I stand by him.
Like a weird hybrid of Jamie Foxx and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Maybe everyone else
that person
is wrong.
Be gorgeous.
Maybe everyone else is wrong.
Yeah, that sounds like Michael Bay when he watches his movie.
Jamie Lee Foxx. I mean, Jamie Lee Foxx is like I'm a straight man. I'm not even like I don't even think I was gay. I'd be particularly attracted to him, but I know he could swoon me. I just know he could. You know what I mean? Like that dude is one debonair, absolutely charismatic.
So you're saying to get you back on the rails. You're saying that you would have had slower character progression with Harry, and have him be a side character in this movie, and kind of show off what he's capable of for a future movie, and have Jamie nearly got me saying that, you bastard. You have Jamie Foxx.
You did say
it. Nearly is so close.
No, you said Jamie Lee, and that's what matters.
But I didn't end it. But like, so you would have done the singular villain, had Electro be the main focus.
Singular villain, man. I mean, there's sometimes you see things in Hollywood where you just kind of go like, yes, like don't get me wrong, like the end of the first Avengers, New York, amazing. Endgame, amazing. Superman versus Zod in Man of Steel, amazing. Loved it. Don't get me wrong, and it was huge concept and everything. Like cities got torn apart, but at the same time, like that's like it's not like, oh, what if we had another bad guy? I kind of go, oh, that's brilliant, but yeah, what if we had a third bad guy? And kind of go, no, that's not. It's not storytelling.
It's story filling.
It's story filling. And I mean, if Jamie Foxx had actually don't forget, I remember actually watching the 1960s cartoons. Electro was a thief.
Yeah. He
stole shit so he could have money, so that he could be rich.
Yeah, like a lot of bad guys back in the day.
Like a lot of bad guys. Yeah, exactly. There was, and don't get me wrong, I actually expanding on the character and making him a scientist.
Yeah.
Making him a literal genius.
Yeah.
Is not something I actually have any kind of problem with. It's
I know we touched on it earlier, but would you have had him have his powers, obtain his powers in a different manner than a tank of electric eels?
Yeah. I don't even know think how, of anything else. I probably would have.
Like all they had to do was like literally, if he's a genius, and he's maybe he's working on electrical technology and he gets electrocuted. Like, you know what I mean? Why did he have to? Like the eels thing was so like unnecessary. You know, in this universe, you have to obtain your powers through an animal of some sort. You know what I mean? It's like that's all Oscorp have been doing. it's just been like, they're just like, oh, they're obsessed with cross-human animal hybrids or genetics or something. You know what I mean? I just don't.
It's like you're doing a Batman on it.
There's-
He goes, you know what? Eve, ever since I was a kid, I was always afraid of electric eels. You know, I fell into a pit one time on my manor of electric eels.
Yeah, it's like in Batman Returns when Michelle Pfeiffer falls out the window and it's kind of like 'cause she gets her power by cats biting on her or some shit. It's like we don't need that now. We don't need the cat bite or whatever, or him falling into electric eels. We don't need to make that association. Like look how Barry Allen got his powers in the Flash. He just got struck by lightning. You know what I mean? After a particle accelerator. Like have that. Like he gets electrocuted after they're doing an experiment. They could have been running an experiment about some perpetual energy machine or some shit. Like kind of like what Doc Ock was doing, and just have a go awry and he gets electrocuted or struck by lightning. Could even cause a lightning storm and he gets struck by lightning or some shit.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean? So
I got fast when I was struck by lightning. And by fast, I mean I was brought to the front of the queue every week for my hospital checkups.
Yeah, you got fast on the way to... Yeah, no, I just think it was really like old school cheesy to have him get his powers by getting chewed on by, I don't know, fucking souped up electric eels.
Yeah, they even did the whole thing where like
so stupid.
There was one eel that kind of like zeroed in on him for a second and then did the whole like, and then his skin started turning. It's not the same, man. It's not the same.
Yeah, I would have, if I was in the director's seat, I would have done what you said. The singular villain, I think it's important for Spider-Man. I think with the villain for part 2, you maybe create that emotional bond with in part 1, because Spider-Man, a lot of villains I know, or a lot of superheroes and their villains have emotional connections with them, but Spider-Man has it a lot, where a lot, like, Harry Osborn was his best friend, and he went evil, that kind of way, and like, in part 1 where they played on it nicely, that Norman, his father, was like a father figure that went evil, and I just think with Spider-Man, you need to do that groundwork, because I think the villains need to have a bit more of a personal relationship with him, of all the superheroes. I think he has a more kind of personal relationship with a lot of his villains, that they know him in his personal life, as well as that they end up being villains with him in his alter ego's life. Like Venom. Venom was like a work rival that ended up being one of his most fucking well-known nemesis, like when Eddie Brock became Venom, and like when Harry Osborn becomes Green Goblin, or Norman Green Goblin, even Doc Ock is someone that was a tutor of his, became Doc Ock, and even look at Curtis Connors, was a teacher of his, became the Lizard. If you look at Spider-Man's villains, I think they need to have a personal relationship with him, or it seems that they all normally do have a personal relationship with him. I just think when they don't, they're not as good. So I think Electro should have been maybe introduced in part 1, and then you have a little bit of a personal relationship with that character, and then he becomes Electro in part 2. You just need to have, I just think of all the superheroes, he needs to know his characters on a personal level as Peter Parker before he goes against them as Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, exactly. There was even even though he didn't know Rhino, and he wasn't even Rhino at the time, it was a whole thing where, he tries to shoot him or he tries to do this, and he sticks his right arm to the left wall using webbing and his left arm to the right wall, and his gun falls on his head and kind of knocks him out, and it's very I don't know. It's Warner. Yeah, it's Looney Tunes. But at the same time, that it was always cool about Spider-Man is in the nefariousness of the bad guy never broke his spirit as a good guy.
Yeah,
and they could have explored that. I always felt like this film definitely tried to do 80 things badly instead of 5 things right. Yeah. Not as much as Spider-Man 3. This is Citizen Kane wrapped up in Shawshank Redemption compared to Spider-Man 3. But this was not a good film.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. It's not to say I got everything wrong. It's just that sometimes I actually felt like Garfield deserved more. I felt like Emma Stone. I felt like Emma Stone deserved more, even if I would have liked to see less of her. It wasn't her. It wasn't her at all. Her death scene
was good, though. Her death scene was good.
I was surprised they actually showed the moment she hit the ground.
Yeah, it was very real.
It's very real. It's just a literal, her spine, her coccyx, and obviously her, head. hits the ground. There's this horrible bounce that would reverberate to basically your entire body and break your neck and your brain's dead. Oh, just a horrible death.
Something else I wanted to talk to you about was I know on the cutting room floor somewhere that a character, I'll check in a sec, Mary Jane Watson was actually cast in this movie and she was cut out of it as far as I know.
Really?
Yeah, and they were going to go and cast a different actress. I'll check. But like, what did you make of? I think Gwen Stacy's death was obviously going to lead to Mary Jane, and maybe they weren't happy with the actress, sorry, that played the role. And what do you think that like? Do you think this is more proof that like Sony didn't really know what they were doing? You know what I mean? They had
well, I think if they had introduced, Mary Jane in the same film, as Gwen Stacy, it would have been tasteless.
So you think like it's better to leave it to a later movie and not
leave it to later, because imagine it's just like if it had gone from, especially considering it's at the end of the film, it's not as if there was a terrible lot of time to work with. It's not as if you could have gone from like Gwen Stacy's funeral and him losing the love of his life to him falling in love with somebody in that 6 minutes that was left. I think they were right to cut it. If they cut it, I think they were right to. Because in Spider-Man 3, he's going to be 2 years older again. So instead of being a part-time photographer, he could be a photographer. He could be a grown man in his mid-20s. And he could be, and he could actually finally be ready to move on in some sort of degree from Gwen.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was a good call. In a film that didn't have a lot of good calls, I think that was a good call.
Yeah, I think I checked it here. The actress' name is Shailene Woodley. Known for the Divergent movies. But, looking at a picture over here, she's as a redhead, and she would have been actually a decent, cast as MJ. So I can understand maybe there's an article there, and I don't want to go through very quickly, but like I can understand what you're saying, that it would have been a little bit tasteless to introduce a new love interest in the same movie as the old love interest has died.
Yeah, he was literally tortured over his relationship with Gwen. Tortured. Yeah. And then she ends up murdered. It would have been strange to have him tortured, her murdered, and then him moving on inside an hour and a half that wasn't even about that.
Yeah.
Like, as in that was the subplot. No. It was a film of bad decisions, and that was a good one. Obviously, unfortunately, all you actually see in the film is the decisions that they did make, and not the decisions that they decided against. But that's a good one. I'll give credit in some small sense for that. I think they were right.
Yeah, same as. And what did you make? Because we forgot to talk about this, and I'll be raging if we don't. What did you make of the scene where the little kid faces off against Rhino?
Yeah.
Like, come on, cops, make a better attempt to save that kid's life. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean. Like, he kind of shows up at the very end, and he goes, "Hey, Spider-Man, I would kind of go like, the thing about like raising kids is sometimes kind of going, no, don't do that. You're in trouble. That guy has machine guns and was firing them exactly where you were. And you had that as information beforehand.
Yeah, it's like
you
that.
Run at the machine guns, mister. You're grounded. And we're going to look at special classes and defense classes. I'm worried about you. Are you depressed?
Is this a cry for help?
Is this a cry for help? It's not like you get to show up and, it was cute and all, but I was thinking, no. Dude, I don't have a conversation with him. Like, if I was Spider-Man jumping into that situation with superpowers, I'd be like, I'd probably like go talk to him in a minute. I'll get him out of there. I'm not going to like talk to him in the line of fire.
I thought that scene was ridiculous too. So like when it comes down to it, you would have only just changed the singular villain, and it's literally about the pace and the issue with this movie and the rush progression of the Sinister Six. And
if I had to use one word, it would be tone.
Yeah. It's just the problem with this movie is it didn't know what it was trying to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or maybe it did and it just didn't execute it correctly or something. I don't know. It's just like when you have a murder scene, and in 5 or 10 minutes before that, you have a guy playing Itsy Bitsy Spider on like a power station or some shit. I can totally understand what you mean by tone. You know what I mean? Like that, like you can't shift so hard from a really cheesy scene to the character's love of his life being killed, horrifically because he couldn't save her in time. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, I totally understand what you mean, but like when you look through it, is that the major issues you had with this movie? The villains, the tone of the movie, and the rushed nature of it, trying to expand into an expanded universe.
Yeah, you know what? I think, like, again, we kind of touched upon it earlier, but I think it tried to deserve a universe too quickly.
Yeah.
The first one set up Peter Parker nicely. First one made Spider-Man work. But by the end of that film, there had been a man made of electricity, and there had been a guy who was dying who injected himself with poison. That's the best way to get superpowers. Because that makes you strong.
Yeah,
because like it's like two negatives. It's like, oh my god, you're dying. Poison me. Go, you fucking genius.
They don't seem to know how to handle the Green Goblin and how to
my god,
transfer him from the page to
no,
the
they don't. And you know what? I wouldn't mind. Only the subject material is there. I mean, if you even look at Dark Reign, I think was the Marvel. It was basically when Norman Osborn managed to convince people that Bullseye should be Hawkeye, and that Ares, the god of war, should be their Thor, and the Daken, the son of Wolverine, should be the Wolverine, blah, 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 and he should be the Iron Man. And they were just like a literal inversion of the Avengers. Brilliant character.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
There's so much context. There's so many comics about his insanity, his ascension, his fall, his reascension, his second fall, all of that. It's been going on for over 40 years. It's there, man. It's there.
Yeah.
Because I wrote characters, you wrote characters, and you literally start from absolutely nothing. And who knows, if you're ever lucky, in 50 years, in 100 years, when you're long gone, somebody literally improves upon it because you did the work. Well, I'm sorry, but you went into this film and people who are no longer with us did the fucking work. It's there. It's there.
Yeah.
You did nothing with it.
Yeah, it's really annoying when there's such a rich source material and it's not taken advantage of.
Exactly.
And few of them are richer than Marvel's.
Few of them are richer than Marvel. It's not as if you made like two films I love, Snatch and let's say Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
That was right from the minds of their directors. Because the directors wrote the film. Right from the mind. Nothing. No source material. I'm sure like things have happened in their lives, things that influenced them. Influence, of course, because that's everybody in every medium of art. But they wrote that. But this would be like something that me, a mere mortal, can, again, I admit, arrogantly say, I might have wrote a better character.
Yeah.
But it was only because I read the comics, man. Only because I was literally told by Stan Lee how to do it.
Yeah, and that's why MCU is so successful, because they did their hardest, or tried their hardest to transfer the characters, how we grew to know and love them from the comic books and the cartoons, onto the big screen in the most like modern, updated version possible. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's why they're so successful, because you have someone like a Kevin Feige in the background. You have Kevin Feige, and like, you know, he really respects the source material. And because he respects the source material, you get like you get better movies. And I just think like when you like the difference between the MCU movies is because they're steeped in the history of the source material, and then they decide to like try their best, because they respect it so much, try their best to bring it to life in the way that we want them to, or the way we expect them to be, brought to life with the same level of respect, with the same level of gravitas, with the same level of epicness that we kind of imagined what they were like from the comic books. Because we had that like same level of epicness in the movies, then, you know, these movies were really successful. And the problem is we have all these high expectations, with these characters, and Sony failed to meet our expectations because they didn't, respect or adapt the source material to the best of their abilities. Then you have the reaction to a Spider-Man 2 in the same way, like the reaction, or Amazing Spider-Man 2, the same way we had the reaction to Spider-Man 3. When you show like a lack of respect for the source material with people that are like in the comic book, like, fandom or whatever, they'll turn on you very quickly and fervently, and they'll stay turned on you till they feel that their fan service can be paid off, like, and rightfully so, because the source material is so fucking rich that, like, if you can't make a good movie out of like the Marvel comic books, and you can't make, like, you can't expand on the universes that they've already provided for you, then, like, you're doing a bad job, that kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's. Again, it's the difference between trying to build something from the ground up and trying to expand. And don't get me wrong, there's an awful lot of art in the MCU, an awful lot.
Yeah.
But my God, man, how can you get it so wrong?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Like, it didn't go, like, you can diverge from the source material, but, like, use it and incorporate the tone that it represents into the movies, and then you get successful movies. That's what the MCU have done. They've incorporated the different eras of their source material. Like, you got Captain America set in the 40s, like a propaganda movie kind of thing. And then you have, like, the spy movies, because based on Winter Soldier, I think Ed Brubaker wrote it. And you got all these different tones because they embrace the source material and all the different tones that are contained within it. Like, you kind of get that goofy kind of campiness of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you get the real kind of, like, action hero of Iron Man, and because they incorporate all the different tones of the different generations of the comic books, you're going to get really good variety in movies, and you're constantly going to get, ingratiate yourselves with the fans because they'll recognize what you're trying to do when you do it.
That's it, exactly. People seem to, like, don't get me wrong, I think fanboys, if left unchecked, will ruin the universe, ruin it. There's two, because it's like, people think they're all one stream of consciousness, but they're not.
Yeah.
But they're not. It is an absolute chaos, I'd imagine, for a director to look out into the fandom and think, what do you want from Bane? What do you want from Spiderman? And they kind of go, man, you think, oh, why hasn't he done it? And you just kind of go, no, you weren't one voice. You're never one voice.
Yeah.
So I do know that you kind of have to end up eventually doing your own thing. But I do also try to remove myself from it. I don't always do a good job, but I kind of go like, no, but that's clearly wrong.
Yeah, as long as respect is shown to the character.
Exactly,
even if it's
like Luther is intelligent, charismatic, and grounded and determined. He just is.
Yeah.
He just is. Sinestro, or you could go Doom. Somebody like Doomsday was quite simple. But they just are. Like, the Joker is wild. The Joker is the wild card, in a very literal sense. And if you're not capturing that, you always kind of think like that's all they were. It's almost like making a bad guy a good guy. It's almost like you got that much wrong on such a fundamental level. I'm not trying to say I'm a great storyteller. I'm just kind of going, you do know, like, Goblin's a bad guy, or you do know that you do know that there's complex characters. There's not complex characters. Like, don't make that Carnage is like. Imagine if they made Carnage like Electro.
Yeah,
it's something like, you don't remember my name? Murder 50 people. I mean,
exactly.
His whole thing is that he's a maniac, and just if they don't get the fact that Carnage is a maniac, right? Then they've fucked up Carnage. And that's not something I'm doing with storytelling. That's something I'm doing with a single word. Maniac.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, motives. If you don't, like, think the motives are worthwhile for what the character is doing, or if you can't even see from their side of view, they've done a bad job of telling the story. You know what I mean? Like, because, like it's, when you look at, like, a Thanos, and he's got this weird thing where he wants to bring balance to the universe, and you can kind of understand his motives, even though he's obviously wrong. But you look at, like, an Electro, as you said, you don't remember my name. Now I'm going to wipe out New York. You know what I mean? Like, like I just think it was maybe like they were trying to lean on the whole stalkerish thing. If I can't have you, nobody can, or some bullshit. I don't know, but, like, I just think that the major mistake definitely was how, like, what if I had the chance to change this movie, would be definitely change how they portrayed Electro, take advantage of Jamie Foxx once you have him in the part, take advantage of Chris Cooper, have Norman Osborn feature more in the movie, not just kill him off. And Dane DeHaan, I thought was a decent Harry Osborn. He's a good actor. I just think, like what you said, kind of, or we just keep this singular villain, and we just, gradually expand the universe and not try to do 4 movies in one, because that's happened with Spider-Man 3. and it ended the universe. And it's the same thing happened in Spider-Man 2, and it ended the universe. And luckily now Sony look like they're learning from their mistakes, but back then they weren't quick enough to learn from their mistakes. But we all benefited. We got Tom Holland as Peter Parker in the MCU, so
who's a great Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so ultimately, I do think it was a good thing, and especially if they're looking into multiverse.
Yeah,
I think everyone might win. To be honest with you.
Yeah, because you get multiverse. Marvel could even continue with Tom Holland, and Sony could have Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire making Spider-Man movies for them. So you could have pretty much, you have your cake and eat it too, or you could have, Sony have their own Spider-Man and Marvel have their own Spider-Man, just set them on different universes or different worlds or whatever. You know what I mean? Like Earth 2 or Earth 3 or whatever the fuck, like doing DCU. But like, no, we've kind of covered all the what ifs. When we look down to what we do the best and the worst now, and what do you think was the best thing about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 experience, and what was the worst thing about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 experience?
I think the best thing about the Spider-Man experience of this particular film was I thought there was a humanity to Peter and May. I actually thought, like in their household, it did have the sense of loss and the sense of wonder and the sense of disconnection and connection at the same time. I thought that was done quite well. I thought that was done almost in a way that would fit into a drama. It just you felt like they loved each other, but there was a distance. Like she was hiding from him something quite, well, compared to being a superhero, quite basic, and he was hiding from her something quite huge.
Both hiding massive secrets from each other to protect one another. Even though if they were to share those secrets, it would help themselves so much.
I thought the scene where she was just like, your dad ran off, blah, 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 and I took care of you since you were sick. You're my boy.
Yeah.
You're my boy. And she was, and I really felt that. It was just
because Sally Field's a fucking amazing actress.
Sally Fields is an amazing actress.
Yeah.
And I really felt
she'd break her heart, she would.
Exactly. And the film was yo-yoing in tone. And very few people were able to rein it in. But Sally Fields completely reined it in. And she gets a tip of my cap. She's an absolute legend. I'm so glad that we still have her. I'm so glad she's still working. And I'm so glad for her body of work. I really, really am.
Yeah, no, she's
so she was one of the better things. I just thought dynamic. I thought the worst thing, and you know what? The worst thing was the romance. And that is saying something when they had Electro as a bad guy. That's saying something. Sorry, no. The worst thing is the sensor that Electro had on the side of his head. Need to touch upon this again.
Yeah.
To let him know if he's overloading, he puts a sensor on his temple where he could never possibly see it.
Yeah. Like
even looking in a mirror would be awkward.
Yeah, like even if that's measuring brainwaves, it should be linked to another device that he's able to read. Like, you know what I mean? Like if that's like measuring his brainwaves and that's what he put on the side of his head, it should be linked to like a device that is on his wrist. That he can still see the fucking readings. Like I'm far from a genius, like, And this guy Max I keep wanting to call him Max Brooks, but Max Dillon. He's supposed to be a genius and he couldn't figure out that if I need to monitor my my levels, I probably should be able to see them. You know what I mean? But
he just left it on his forehead. But yeah, no, the worst thing was the romance. Sometimes I know Lois Lane and Clark Kent, and I know Catwoman and Batman, and I know
even like Neo and Trinity in the Matrix movies, you have that smushiness to it. You need it. You need that emotional attachment. You need to create emotional stakes as well as like these gigantic stakes, because like when you look,
people are human.
Yeah,
there's human connections that you have too. There's attraction, there's sex, there's relationships.
Yeah, because you need to tell smaller stories within a greater narrative. So
you do,
and that's what creates the stakes of the greater narrative. Now they affect the characters. So like, I just think like with the romance, I can see why they did it. I can understand why they tried to make it tormented, even though I think it was unnecessary. Because of the way they set it up at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 1. I think they should have just added Gwen to his kind of roster, where she was helping him out with the technology we already talked about, like, and built a Spider-Gwen. Because, like, if you're going to have a Spider-Gwen, you're not going to have a better actress to play than Emma Stone. You know what I mean? Like, maybe
no, she's actually, that's the thing.
You know what I mean? She can do. I've never seen her do action. Fair enough, but like,
no, you have the zombie thingy with Woody Harrelson.
Sorry, no, you're right. Zombieland 1 and 2. No, like she can pretty much do it all. Like, I think she would fit in perfectly as the Spider-Gwen, and they should have built to that. Even if they killed her off, it would have been like
there's this kind of Hollywood thing where typically very, very, very beautiful people making in Hollywood typically, but even more so for women. And Emma Stone is certainly a really, really beautiful woman, but she just has this believability about her. You can just imagine her in any scenario. And they didn't kind of, again, I always go back to it, and it's the ultimate example of being a woman tied to a railway track, just waiting for a man to come and save her, and she was never that. So Spider-Man, absolutely, I would have loved it.
Yeah, no, same as like you could, as I said to you earlier, you could have had the next time baby kind of scene where she looks at her suit where it's not fully created or something, and then she dies, and then she doesn't get to fulfill her destiny or some shit. I just think having her, like, it seemed like this whole movie was like, let's figure out ways to split up Gwen and Spider-Man so we can introduce Mary Jane into the next movie, and they decided to go nuclear and kill her off. You know what I mean? Like, so I just think because like, he breaks up with her because he's tormented because of the father's dying wish. They're like, no, she's going to move to England because she got accepted into Oxford.
Cambridge.
No, Oxford.
Was it Oxford?
Yeah, no, because it's actually on the banners of the building she goes into, Oxford University.
Fair enough.
But but you know what I mean? I just think they'd spent an entire movie trying to split them up. And they decided that the best way to split them up permanently was to kill her off, instead of
that would do it, to be fair.
Movie. Yeah, but they could have spent the entire movie building on what they laid down, the foundations they laid down from part one. She knew he was Spider-Man. They could have incorporated her into his life, and instead of having this complicated romance thing, you could actually have her involved in all the action sequences. Not all of them, but the planning of them. And became, and like you could, why not have Gwen Stacy be? Why does Mary Jane always have to be in it? That kind of way. They should, like, if you want to make your universe different, stay with that tone and keep that energy when the big decisions come. Like, even though Mary Jane Watson's such a big part of Peter Parker's story, there's no problem. Gwen Stacy, I'm pretty sure in the original Spider-Man was his first love interest. So until she got killed off, so like I think she's an important enough part that you could have had her for a couple of movies, and then more than 2 movies maybe, and then not kill her off, and you could even have spin-offs or whatever the fuck, I don't know. No, so your best and worst would be, so your best was
Aunt Peter dynamics. It was the most grounded thing in the film. It wasn't a big part of the film, but I liked it.
Yeah,
you don't get to tell. The worst was definitely the Roma, and I know Electro was fucking awful. But I honest to God thought just the tortured souls, the sleepless in Seattle was just, and you know what? Like, there's nothing wrong with a romantic film. It's just unnecessary. It's like, pick a lane.
Yeah.
Like, every story always has a subplot. It lends itself to other things. Horrors can be comedic and all of that kind of jazz. But this just felt like it couldn't decide on what I wanted to be. Be with the girl or don't be with the girl. But I'd really appreciate if you'd be Spider-Man for a bit more.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So my best would have been, I liked the action, and my favorite part about the movie was Andrew Garfield's portrayal of Spider-Man again.
Solid. Solid. Really, really.
He's a really, really solid Spider-Man. I even texted you, like, I think it was during the first movie, and I just like, Andrew Garfield's a good Spider-Man. I think it was just something simple as that, like, where it's just, that's what he is. He was just such a solid, good Spider-Man. In both movies, he was good, and a really good Peter Parker as well. And I loved his dynamic with Gwen Stacy and Emma Stone. And that's obviously because they were dating in real life and had this natural chemistry already, but really showed on screen, and was a real strength, in my opinion, of the movies. And at the end of the day, I just thought he was unlucky in terms of timing and how his term as Spider-Man ended and how it all worked out and stuff again.
Yeah, it worked out against him, and there's nothing about that film that was his fault. There was nothing about that film that was his fault.
Obviously, my worst about the whole Spider-Man 2 experience was the villains. Again, it was just I didn't like the way Electro was done. I didn't like his really corny origin story, how needy he was. And I didn't like how quick of a turn it was for Dane DeHaan into becoming the Green Goblin. They didn't really build to it. They built his desperation, I know, but like he just kind of like, I inject myself with poison. I'm slowly mutating. I'm going to jump into the suit to keep me alive. And his first thought is, I'm going to go.
Did the Spider-Man blood like enhance him in any way, or was it just the suit? They never even touched on that.
Yeah, it kind of looked like he was dying, and the suit saved his life.
Yeah, but like, had he just got into the suit without any of the Spider-Man-y Venom stuff, would he have been even better? I don't understand what the Spider-Man stuff did to him. Like,
I think it might have driven him insane, and I think it just.
But did it increase him in any way? Like if I stepped into the suit
for some reason,
changed his hairstyle for some reason. And also, imagine just being needy for human attention to turn like a really, really grounded, moralistically driven scientist who's trying to improve the world into a sociopath. It just did not.
You could have made that character should. It's kind of like how they handled Guy Pearce's character from the leader of AIM in Iron Man 3. He's just this like sniveling dweeb, but at least he got his confidence when he was able to fix his affliction or whatever, But like they didn't have that with this. Like I think you said it earlier. Like he stayed needy when he became Electro. He's like a demigod or whatever.
Yeah, you need me.
It's just like it's a bit lame. It was a bit. That's my problem with this movie. How Paul Giamatti wasn't a good fit for the part of Rhino, and the way they used them was just really cheesy and just like stupid.
Nobody would have been a good fit for Rhino. I just think Rhino was handled badly.
I just think if you look at Rhino, you just look at the WWE and you pluck them gigantic wrestler.
Yeah, you know what?
They're there. Yeah. They are there. Like you know what I mean. There's like a Batista, John Cena. I know they weren't maybe as prevalent then as they are now. Their movie careers are much better, like bigger now or whatever. But the WWE always has a fairly regular stock of gigantic human beings for you to pick from, and they're more than welcome to be in movies. Like so. I just think Paul Giamatti was a strange choice. I like Jamie Foxx's casting as Electro. I know he's very different than the character was in the comic books, but it's such like a low level character that it needed. Like if you give it to a good actor, you should do something with it. And you can do a lot more with it instead of just like sticking him on the lower level like he was in the comic books. But I just think the villains in this movie were the worst thing about it. How they handled Jamie Foxx with Electro, how they handled Dane DeHaan with Green Goblin, and then the kind of shoehorned Paul Giamatti in with the Rhino. And I think that's just my worst. I think the best part about it was Andrew Garfield and his dynamic with Emma Stone and his portrayal of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And the worst thing about it was the villains. And it's just it fell in the same place as Spider-Man 3 where the villains were weak and thus we had a weak superhero movie, which is often the case.
Yeah, and I think if I was one of the money bags that involved in this film, I would kind of go like, this is how you handled two bad guys. And now you're asking, like, don't get me wrong, commercial success, but people were kind of done with it. It was that bad a film that, yes, they went to it, but they weren't going to rush back. And then you're kind of going, you want me to give you 6?
Yeah.
You want me to give you 6 into the next film? No.
Yeah, it's you need to earn it. Like with the audience, you need to tell your story. I think the reason now when you look at the golden age televisions, because people are enamored and love long form storytelling, and there's no better source material than comic books that have shown how to do long form storytelling over a gradual period of time and long period of time, how to develop characters, their relationships, their motives, the reasons for attacking or defending or whatever. And I just think like, look at Marvel. The reason they're so successful is because they did it gradually. It's a long form storytelling. It's like the longest cinematic TV show in history. You know what I mean? The largest scale cinematic TV show in history is that's what the MCU is. It like feels like you're watching a series of television, but each episode is 2 hours long. You know what I mean? And that's what you need to do. You need to build it slowly over time, like the comic books did, because that's what the audience and the fan base that you're trying to bring over from one medium to the other expect. And anytime it's not done right, that's when it's failed. You rush, you fail. Look at DCEU. They rushed their character developments. Let's throw Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Let's throw them all in really quick instead of giving them standalones and building, and then we get the payoff.
And so, and Wonder Woman is really well received because that's the exception. They actually did a Wonder Woman.
No, yeah, I love that one. Yeah, but they did it after BVS.
They did. No, they did. They did after BVS.
I know. I love the first Wonder Woman movie. I even wrote an article on it back in the day. And I love that movie. Thought it was brilliantly done. Patty Jenkins did a great job. Terrible sequel though, unfortunately, because I was really looking forward to it. Another time where they wasted potential with their villain, Pedro Pascal. just like he was just looking at the camera and talking to it the whole way through. You want a wish, I give you a wish. You know, like it's not a great character. You know what I mean? I just think when you have the whole movie should have been centered around maybe what's the lady's name? What's the woman's name that played Cheetah? What's her name? Sorry,
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig. Yeah, I think like her power set works well with Wonder Woman because they can have a brawl.
Excellent.
So there's no need for Pedro Pascal's character in that film at all.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think that like that's another missed opportunity. Like, but
this is it. Like they're oh god, they're just trying to cram everything together.
It just goes the way it is. If you like, there's two big things in superhero movies. If you rush your world building, you're going to fail oftentimes. And if you have a weak villain, you don't put enough work into your villain, the half cooked, the fans aren't going to forgive you. Even some of the Marvel movies that have half cooked villains, they're looked upon as poorly by the fans. Because if you look at it, we got Loki, Thanos, you know what I mean? You get Magneto and Ian McKellen, and then Michael Fassbender played him in the newer X-Men universe. Like, when you get this kind of fleshed out like character, you understand their motives, then you normally get a strong backbone because you can understand the reason why the superheroes are trying to stop them, but you can also kind of empathize with why the villain sees the world the way it is. But you need to do it with world building, and if you rush your world building, your movie suffers, and that's proven time and time again. And I think that's the reason Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, welcomed by the audience the way it was, and that's the reason why the MCU was so positively looked upon by, everybody pretty much.
No, they did. I mean, God, the patience. Me and you were like, especially me, but we're old farts, and we were kind of there from World 1, day one, and Iron Man 1 was a hugely entertaining film. I wasn't sitting there knowing my Iron Man, kind of going, oh God, wait, where's the Mandarin, and where's, where's the extremist, and where's all these other things, and you kind of go, no, this is an Iron Man film, or Captain America, the first Avenger. You're just like,
who was the dragon from Iron Man, the comic books? Fu Manchu? No.
Oh God, the dragon. All he says is his own name.
It's not Fu Manchu.
Fa-Fung?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not gonna Google it. I know I'm wrong, but at least I took a shot at it from the. It's Fa-Fung or something like that. Yeah.
What I liked about the Marvel ones as well is that like all the first movies were kind of realistic, and then they're like, we're going to give you Thor. This is slightly different than what we gave you.
And they managed to wedge it in, like,
and then they're like, because they got you ready for, like, you know what I mean? They give you Thor, and then we have, isn't it Captain America? Thor was fourth. Because we had Iron Man 1, which is kind of like in the realm of the real world. Even the Incredible Hulk was kind of very grounded. And then you had Iron Man 2, which is slightly more fantastic, but still very grounded. And then when they gave us Thor, they're like, we're going to get you ready because things are going to get slightly different as we go along. We're going to, like, this is like the Marvel were very gradual how they welcomed or they introduced the more fantastical elements of their world. Because by the time of Guardians of the Galaxy came around, you were like, of course. You know what I mean? Because we'd seen Avengers, because we'd seen Thor part 1 and 2 at that stage, like, So when I just think if you have this gradual world building, like things are going to kind of be different each movie. You know what I mean? You change the expectation, and then people are like, when the more like outlandish things come in, you're like, of course, we've seen a Thunder God. You know what I mean? Like, so why can't we see a talking tree or a raccoon or whatever? You know what I mean? Because like you're like, of course, if Thor can be around and Norse gods are real. Of course, all these crazy creatures can be in the other side of our universe.
There was a great line by Nick Fury where, what are you talking about? Just a god decided to take home what was his, and I decided not to argue with him. Some shit like that. Yeah. Way better delivered than that, but I remember just being a great line. It was just like, wait, why didn't you stop him? Why didn't they stop him?
The Tesseract, wasn't it?
The Tesseract, yeah. Why didn't they stop him? It's kind of going like, only the gamma radiation monster is stronger than him, and he has a hammer, and he's 1,500 years old and a trained warrior. I mean, they stop him. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a goddamn toddler.
Yeah. I think that's the thing about it is like Marvel are brilliant at doing that, where there's just like they build it up, and just like when you see Thor's power, in Thor 1. By the time he takes the Tesseract back home, you're like, of course no one's going to stop him. You know what I mean? Like, we just seen him fight the Destroyer in Thor 1 that was like level the town, and he was able to defeat that. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like, and it's all about world building, little things like that. Like, just make the payoffs in these films so much more enjoyable.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Just
again, they rushed it. You know what? If we were to put it down into a sentence, they rushed it. Like, I know, they fucked up characters and stuff, but you're absolutely right. Like, the fact of the matter is, they brought in a director and a writing team and said, make an Iron Man movie. And then they brought in a team and they said, make
Jon Favreau's a fucking god.
God Favreau's a god. And they said, make a Thor movie. And then, like, they slyly introduced Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow and Iron Man 2 and they introduced Hulk. I know, like, had Graham Norton, am I right? Ed Norton kept his nose clean. He would have been the Hulk, and that would have been an introduction movie. But at the same time, they just worked it. They worked it, and they worked towards it. And it was a 4-year plan, and then they had a 10-year plan, and now we're in a 15-year plan. And you're going, yes, don't make 20 good films instead of making 5 terrible ones. That's not going to get to where you're trying to go. It's just not.
And it's all about not rushing. Like as I said, we have been spoiled with the golden age of television, and we really do enjoy long form storytelling now. And nobody does cinematic long form storytelling better than Marvel. Nobody's done that. Nobody's done an interconnected universe. However, like, I know there's some discrepancies about how interconnected these movies are and stuff, whatever. But 23 movies, the timeline's pretty decent, and it's pretty neat. How they've wrapped up all the movies together, and it's never been done before. I just think they didn't rush it, and they got their just rewards. Whereas Sony, Warner Brothers, they both tried to rush their expanded universes, and both of them have had a lot of issues because of it. And I think that's where Amazing Spider-Man 2 ends up. It just ends up, and it was rushed, like you said, and it ended up failing because it was rushed, and none of the villains got the screen time they deserved or they needed. And so people didn't care about the follow-up. And luckily for us, in a way.
I would say, though, would we both agree on this, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that it's not Garfield does not a failed Spider-Man. Sony, Amazing Spider-Man, is a failed Spider-Man. That it's a macro, not a micro. The guy that gave the script he did that. He's absolute damnedest with what he was given.
Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci wrote the second one. I just think the first one was a really strong movie, really solid movie. We talked about it last time.
Perfect by no measures, but definitely a goddamn good film.
Yeah, it's a solid movie. Like, I'm sure, we talked about the crane scene and stuff, but like, I just think to go from such a solid movie with nobody had any expectations of it being such a good movie or how good Andrew Garfield was going to be as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, to go and actually increase our expectations and to be so cavalier, to be so careless with how they handled the second movie. I think that's why they got such a bad feedback or negative reaction to Amazing Spider-Man 2, is because it was just such a waste of potential, because the first one was such a solid foundation for the creator universe on. To fumble the second one in such a way was not as bad as Spider-Man 3, but nearly as unforgivable.
Yeah, God, Jesus. That's the thing. Like, Spider-Man 3 lowered the bar so much, and I remember just watching this today going, yeah, this isn't bad. Even though it was bad, and by the end of it, I thought it was terrible. But I remember just kind of going, like, God, Spider-Man 3 was so awful.
Yeah.
It's like getting stabbed, but then realizing that time someone stabbed you 3 times. And kind of going, oh no, I've been stabbed. But you know what? Don't panic. You've been here.
I've been stabbed worse.
I've been stabbed worse.
Well, we've covered pretty much every bit of ground we could cover.
Yeah, I don't want to be under. I do think we should wrap up.
We get the fuck out of here. So
let's get the fuck out of here.
Right. So this is another episode of Dark Side of the Moon in our segment Spider-Fan Family Hour. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel-John Tootie. And Karen McAvoy, the man behind the curtain, he's the man that brings in all these fucking hilarious advertisements you hear, all the cool shit that goes on behind the scenes, and to make our ramblings sound like a coherent
conversation. He's the Randy Warhol of soundscapes. We are lucky to have him.
His name's Andy Warhol.
I know what I said, and I stand by
it. This fucking guy. I love how committed he is.
I do one take.
Yeah.
I'm not your whore.
Yeah, so we get the fuck out of here. We'll be back next time with another episode of Spider-Man Family Hour with Dark Side of the Moon. That'll be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the animated movie. But Chris Miller and I can't remember the other guy's name. But we'll be back next time with that movie. I hope you hear from me again, whatever. I was your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel-John too. Noel-John, say goodbye.
So thank you so much for staying with us. Peace out, folks. Be safe and be good.
Goodbye, motherfuckers. See you next time. Yeah, allegedly. Well, no, we're not recording this technically.
Yeah,
well, we are. But
Jesus, for the love of fucking Christ, Carl, don't put this in.